Howdy, howdy, Night City. Welcome back. My guest tonight is Lieutenant Sarah Kokoski, spokeswoman for the NCPD. Hi there. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Ziggy. Thanks for having me.
I hope you made it to the studio without any issues. No carjackings or drive-bys along the way?
No. Fortunately, the streets of Night City are getting safer every day. We've seen recorded homicides drop from 7,103 a year ago to just...
Hold on. The streets are safe, you say, but what about the highways?
I'm sorry?
You heard about the shooting off the Route 1 exit, I trust. Half an hour before any response team arrived on the scene. Over 700 rounds fired in that time. What happened? Where are the gunmen now?
Well, the NCPD is responsible for the safety and security of all citizens within city limits.
Sarah, sweetheart, don't feed us some NCPD script. Be honest with our viewers. When will they finally be safe? When will they no longer need to carry a concealed weapon for a trip to the mall or to take their kids to play ball in the park?
The NCPD is doing everything it can.
Look at that cop squirm.
Not that great, but knowledge is your currency. And what makes you special? What rice bowl do you control? And I remember getting read into some stuff that like it was like the president and very limited number of people getting read into. And I was one of them because I was operating a certain thing for a certain op. And, oh, you're part of the club, you know, like only 30 people are cleared or whatever. And I'm like, I don't get off on this shit. It's, right. Like, it's just so weird. But like these like lifers, and I hate to, you know, talk so matter of fact about it, but like it's kind of disgusting to me because it's like this like it's weird. It's just like a weird like Gnostic cultish thing. Mm-hmm. And you know, I lived that community for 14 years of my career.
And people really do enjoy having information that other people don't have access to.
I was like, I got a secret, and like that's why I whistleblowed. Okay, so I know this shit's real. I know we're not alone. We have stuff. No shit. Am I gonna sit on my ass for 30, 40 years? I'm an old man. I look back like, I had that secret. I knew about it, but I didn't do anything. I didn't change. So I couldn't just keep that secret because I thought it was just perverse and wrong that the people don't even at least get to know the basics. It's insane.
So when it comes to these, I'm going to bring it back to these actual entities.
Yeah.
Do we know, or would you have an understanding of how many of them we're talking about and the variety of them?
Well, yeah, there is a variety, and we have a certain number of different things. But the like total numbers of like what's interacting with us on Earth, I mean, nobody knows that. And I mean,
but there's an understanding of some that they do believe are interacting with us, and there's a variety in terms of there's variables.
Yeah, I talked to people who are familiar with the biological analysis and everything. So we have some idea, not a complete picture, because it's like, you know, you're looking at it, it's like, well, I don't even understand the physiology at all. It's like, what the heck? It's like way different, right? So we have at least
a description of this physiology.
Yeah, no, I was in the room when gotta be careful. I don't want to. I was in Washington, D.C. with a very number of senior people that work for members of Congress, put it that way, when I was still in government. And I brought the people who worked on that stuff to the Hill. I mean, this is why the members were so confident to put out the Schumer Amendment and stuff. And I was like, please explain. And they went into all those details and stuff. And I remember, some of the professional staff members were like, whoa, like they were like in G-lock, right? Because I mean, it like a total world bubble got burst right there for a lot of people. And so we have some idea. It's not a complete picture. I mean, it's just like, but you're not even bringing in the right people. Like I think about my friend and colleague, Dr. Gary Nolan, which I started the Soul Foundation nonprofit with, I mean, he's like, Nobel level biologist, virologist. Like, he's the guy that you would want on it, but he's not on it. So I think we can make a lot of progress in our understanding once again if this is more broadly studied in an open environment.
You aware of the Nixon Jackie Gleason story?
Vaguely, I stayed away from ufology because I had these contemporary people that were inside. I could check all their credentials, where they worked, etc. But I'm vaguely familiar what was it, like Nixon brought Jackie Gleason to some facility and showed him some stuff or something like that?
Yeah, supposedly that's the story. And it's very hard to determine the origin of the story or whether or not it's real. It came from, there's a story about one article that was supposedly published. Was it Vanity Fair? Something like that, yeah. And you can't find the story. But Jackie Gleason, by all accounts, was obsessed with UFOs. And even built a home in upstate New York that looked like a flying saucer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
This is the house. He had this house constructed supposedly after he had this meeting with Nixon. So Nixon, supposedly they were drinking. Jackie Gleason and Nixon are tying one on. And Nixon's like, you want to see some shit? And they fly to wherever this base is, and he shows them these frozen biological entities and this retrieved vehicle, and then Jackie Gleason becomes a fanatic. Obviously,
that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, not crazy, but that's interesting that a president would do that to like an uncleared celebrity friend of his. Like, oh, let me just show you the most sensitive shit our country has.
Well,
I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me.
People are obsessed with celebrity. There's even world leaders, kings and queens of, they've always been obsessed with famous people. And Jackie Gleason at the time was incredibly famous and also beloved, right?
Yeah.
So this is my pal, and I'm drunk. You want to see some shit? I get it.
I want to hang out with Nixon if that's how he was like, man.
Well, I bet
70s
he was
is probably wild.
I bet he was like that
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. I mean, Hunter S. Thompson famously recalled his, there's the two of them meeting together. Famously recalled sitting in the backseat of a limo with Nixon talking about football. And he was like, God, if I didn't think he was a piece of shit, I actually kind of like him.
Oh, that's funny.
We're just talking football.
Yeah.
Look, nobody in that job, nobody as a president is going to be loved by everyone. And I'm sure Nixon has positive qualities. And, if Jackie Gleason liked him, I'm a giant Jackie Gleason fan. He's probably fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
And if you're drunk and, you're the president, and also we're talking about the 1970s, right?
Yeah.
So this is a different world, like even if you tell anybody, who the fuck's going to believe you? You can't get on TikTok. Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to get this information out?
Oh, exactly. And that's kind of how, in my personal opinion, how the program was protected, right?
Forever.
Make it crazy.
Right.
So if anybody leaks anything, or has an unauthorized disclosure, people are going to think you're fucking nuts.
Of course.
Yeah.
But there are actual reports that we have biological remains.
Yes. Oh, yes.
How many?
It's up there as well, just like with the
and they
retrievals,
vary.
Yeah.
There's different kinds. Do we have an understanding? You don't have to answer where they came from.
Nobody I talked to espoused any specific origin to me. We may know that, but I'm not aware of anything, so I don't know.
Are there reports of some kind of interaction with these things where they're giving information or discussing the problems of humanity and possible solutions, or explaining why they're here?
Interactions was a sensitive subject that my interview subjects did not want to get into. I suppose that there's probably detailed documentation of those interactions that goes into a lot of the stuff you're asking. I truly don't even know the answer to a lot of that. So,
but is there discussions amongst these people that there have been these sort of
there was
meetings?
Water cooler talk with some people I talked to on the program.
I love water cooler talk.
Yeah, they're like, hey, bro, guess what I overheard in some weird meeting,
Right.
But that is the problem with that is it's like secondary information,
Right.
and I'm so anal retentive. Unless that person told me I had close, personal, I touched it, whatever. Like, cool. Well, you're coming to the Inspector General, or I'm gonna at least give them your name, because that's what you told me, and then obviously I did that. So those people who physically were there, were on the program, did the thing, I brought to the Inspector General.
Are there
But yeah,
discussions
yeah.
of interactions with live beings?
There was some water cooler talk about that kind of
But
thing,
that's it.
but I don't even want to get into it because it's like there were some details provided to me, but it's like it's secondary, and I don't know if that's like the telephone game,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
I don't know if it was hyperbolized in any way, in the
Right.
break room, so to speak. So I'm so anal about making sure what I say is accurate. I don't know. So, yeah.
Do we have an understanding? I mean, if there have been these discussions, do we have an understanding of when they first took place?
Yeah, some specific events were mentioned to me, and I provided that information in a classified setting. Yeah.
And how far back do they go?
Pretty far back. It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one of the stories from Roswell that's fascinating to me is that Eisenhower had the wreckage flown to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in 2 separate jets in case one of them crashed.
there has been some public testimony. So General DuBose, there were some old timers that at least did some videos in like the 90s. Like I'm Brigadier General Exxon. Here's what I heard. Whatever. I mean, that's out there in the open source. So yeah.
Yeah, and there was always that discussion of Hangar 18, right? Have you ever heard of Hangar 18?
There's a lot of hangers.
But that's the one, for whatever reason. I think it was maybe a movie. Was there a movie?
Well,
Hangar 18?
it's funny. Speaking of senators being denied, there's a video in the late '80s of Senator Barry Goldwater of Goldwater Nicolsack famed. Right, he was a 2-star general in the Air Force Reserve, and like literally, this video is like on YouTube. It's like hard to find though. But Jesse Michaels on American Alchemy put together, I think, a short video yesterday, and there's like a section in there where he actually has that Goldwater interview. But General Goldwater's like, yeah, one day I called Curtis LeMay, who's a very famous Air Force general, and was like, General, I heard that there's this room that you have UFO material, and Barry Goldwater espouses in this interview, like, yeah, and LeMay got madder than hell at me and told me never to fucking ask about that again. I might have added the F word in there just for fun. But yeah, it's bad. It's in the military too long. My wife tells me to be careful with my language all the time around my niece and nephew. So, but even Barry Goldwater knew that we had UFO material. He asked General LeMay when he was in the Air Force, and General LeMay basically told him to fuck off. And that is a literal interview you can Google. So a lot of this, like, people disclosing fact of has really been out in the vernacular for a long time, but nobody really cared because, well, everybody was just kind of like desensitized from the whole subject and thought it was wacky. And I'm not the first former government official to confirm that. You have Goldwater and all these other Harry Reid, who made the same disclosure to the New Yorker a month after I talked to him in person.
Mellon.
Yeah, Mellon has said stuff. Lou Elizondo said, he believes we have material on, I think it was Tucker Carlson a couple years ago. So there's certainly been other officials. Now I'm just trying to spike the football and take it all the way to the end zone here. And luckily we have a Congress that's mostly motivated, minus Mike Rogers and Mike Turner. You're getting cool in your stockings. I'm going to make sure your office gets cool. And, they want change too, and they realize it's time for a change. And presumably, Chuck Schumer's talked to, Jake Sullivan and President Biden. And who's in the White House right now is John Podesta. He is the green energy czar or something like that in the White House. But, John Podesta, shout out to John Podesta in the White House. He has an axe to grind on this issue too, because remember he tweeted at the end of Obama's second term, my biggest failure was not to have Obama release the UFO file, and made the same kind of statement with Clinton. So certainly if Mr. Podesta's listening in the White House, I'm here to help. I hope that you're championing this within the executive office of the president. And, the other, speaking of people like Goldwater who've made some weird non sequitur kind of admissions, there's a John Stossel interview of Mike Pompeo, the former CIA director, about 2 years ago or so. You can find it online, where Pompeo talks about the JFK file and like dismisses it or something about like there's no boogeyman here. But then he quickly says, "Oh, I've seen the UFO file too, and we have bigger problems." But for at least the way it was edited, John Stossel didn't even follow up. At least the way the final cut was. I'm like, dude, if I was John Stossel, I'd been like,
Right. What does that mean?
what do you mean, Mike Pompeo? You've seen the UFO file, and we have bigger problems. And UFO file, the way I interpret that, is a long existing file or briefing document or something that he had access to. So I think the former CIA director, Mike Pompeo, should probably clarify what he said 2 years ago. Next, if anybody interviews him next, ask Mike that question. What did he mean?
Yeah,
So-
we have bigger problems. Well, we certainly
Yeah.
have bigger problems in terms of
Yeah.
our current existence, specifically with what you were talking about earlier, the proxy wars and
Mhm.
collapse of
Yeah.
society as we know it, which it seems.
Yeah, I mean
imminent.
I feel for the Ukrainian and the Israeli people. I'm not taking any particular side, but certainly people forget U.S. aid in these wars. What's the most expensive thing if you've studied phases of conflict? It's the reconstruction costs after the conflict. So are we in it for triple-digit billions, like the war on terror? Certainly the Israeli conflict is a great distraction because, Russia is very tight with Iran, right? And personal opinion, this is just my own personal opinion, but I'm sure they commiserated and was like, can you start a two-front war? Because we would like to win in Ukraine, and this will distract the U.S. because Israel is a longtime, Middle East ally. So
Certainly
it's brilliant. It's
distracted
brilliant.
Public
Yeah.
opinion. I mean, the virtue signalers on social media have essentially completely forgotten about Ukraine. It's all about Israel and Palestine.
Yeah, you don't even see it, and I understand, what the National Security Council determination was that they've discussed publicly, where there's kind of like trying to drain the Russia's military capability and annexation of Ukrainian territory because they don't want Russia's sphere of influence to further enter that Caucasus region and stuff. But yeah, it's funny, like you said, it's like you don't even talk about Ukraine. It's all about Israel now, and which is a horrible conflict on both sides. Like it's unfortunate. So
Without a doubt.
yeah.
It was a very interesting statement, though, that we have bigger problems. So even if we do, this seems to be like this is such a human question because it's one of the biggest mysteries. Obviously, there's the Fermi paradox. Where are they, right? If you look out, and if you look out into the cosmos,
Yeah.
if you've ever gone a clear night and you look out and you realize those are all stars, and those stars are all surrounded by planets, and there's literally hundreds of billions of them.
Yeah,
in
the
this
Drake
galaxy
equation,
alone.
you
Yeah.
can calculate what
Yeah.
probable sentient life.
Yeah.
And I've been an amateur astronomer since I've been a kid, and I've never, crazy enough, I've never seen anything remarkable. I've seen some stuff that could have been ball lightning and some satellite passes that weren't registered online. Where you could actually check to see if there's going to be like an iridium flare or something like that, and maybe that was a satellite pass, maybe not. But I've never seen in my personal life, never seen anything weird. And it's funny you mentioned the Fermi paradox, and it's like, well, where are they? And okay, well, if you're sentient life, you're certainly going to have sophisticated cover, concealment, and deception techniques. It goes back to like what Jacques Vallée's work is, where the phenomenon presenting itself in different ways. But also, I live in the mountains of Colorado, right? So there is a mountain lion den about 10 miles from my house in Colorado, literally. There are lower predatory sentience. I'm higher predatory sentience, and I'm using this as a device or an analogy for NHI and us. Well, on a day-to-day basis, I don't care what a mountain lion is doing. I may hike in that area to explore, but day to day, I'm afraid of it and I don't care. And think about what humans might be, unfortunately, to some of these higher sentients where this monkey has a nuke. Holy shit. Keep them in the cage. We don't want to go anywhere near them. And so people think that there would be some kind of open contact with some higher sentience that is either visiting Earth or from another dimension or whatever the origin is. But they probably don't care. They're probably neutral at best and maybe actually fearful of us in some sense. Or we're the progeny of, personal opinion, progeny of some experiment, and it's almost like living in the Matrix, but it's not like an actual simulation. It's like we want the simulation to go. We don't want to intercede because we want to see what, Homo sapien sapien 2.0 is going to do after the Great Flood or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the more fascinating ideas, is that we're some sort of a product of genetic engineering.
I honestly would not be surprised. I don't know that to be true, but
we're so different than everything else is here.
Yeah.
So different, so beyond different. I mean, there's not another primate that is even reasonably close. I mean, there's speculation amongst primatologists, and there's not even speculation. They believe that chimpanzees in particular have entered into the Stone Age. So they're at the beginning of the Stone Age. They're using tools, and there's obviously some learned behavior. Like there's some footage of orangutans using spears to hunt fish with.
Interesting.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that?
No, not.
It's cool as shit. There's an orangutan that's hanging on a branch over a river or a body of water, and he's stabbing at fish with a spear, which is incredible. I mean, they're using tools. I mean, we know they use tools to extract, termites and the like. Look at that. I mean,
that's crazy.
How crazy is that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's clearly hunting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's going fishing in Borneo. I mean, that is, at the very least, a distant cousin of us. Some, intelligent primate that is figured out a way to use tools. How long would it take an orangutan to become a human being? How many millions of years are we talking about of evolution? But it seems to be that process has started.
Interesting.
But why are we so fucking different than everything else?
Yeah, like are we a product of Darwinian evolution, or what is it? Punctuated equilibrium is obviously another theory. And I'm not an anthropologist by any means. I watched some Netflix episodes. But
yeah, me too. A lot of YouTube.
But yeah, we seem to be oddly
advanced,
and we seem to just possess other skills. I mean, it goes back to like the Stargate program, right? With declassified by Clinton and sensibly canceled, I guess, in '96. Where you had people trained in remote viewing, and like there was feedback loops to confirm what they saw was real, and either satellite imagery or human sources where they sketched out a room of where there's hostages, and they got a hostage out, and they're like, and this is a real story actually, and they're like, did you have a source in that room? How do you know where all the corridors were and everything? And it's like, no, actually, Pat Price remote viewed you, and he's like, what the fuck? So there's something going on there, and that's like Gary Nolan, has studied a lot of this stuff. Very famously, he's pointed out the caudate putamen in the brain, right? It's like this horseshoe-shaped thing in the middle of your brain. That if he's done MRIs and CAT scans, and I hope I'm not butchering his work. Gary might, slap me later, but it lights up with people who have those kind of skills. They have like an overactive caudate putamen in the brain, and it's like, okay, well, is it a transceiver of some sort? I'm guessing that's the case.
Is it an emerging property of human beings as we evolve?
Exactly, and we're seeing just a few human beings that have this stuff, and then if it is a transceiver, where's the information? Is it in a higher spatial dimension, or how are they extracting? How are they able to basically be non-locality, right? They're able to like project themselves somehow, their consciousness, to and then this is a declassified example from Stargate, a Russian missile base, sketch the crane and where the silos are, what the status is, Satellite comes over, takes a picture, and it's exactly the way they sketched it. How'd they do that? Like, it's certainly real because there is a feedback loop. Now, there's a lot of charlatans in the psychic space and all that, but like, at least that government program, and I've talked to, Halpudov and people who actually ran that program at SRI for the CIA, then DIA and the Army. And that seems to be in Men Who's Staring at Goats, right? The George Clooney movie's the famous movie based on the Stargate program. Seems to be legit as far as we can measure from a feedback perspective.
What was the explanation for the discontinuation of that program?
Oh, gosh, I'm not a scholar on that. That something Russell Targ or Hal Puthoff or one of those guys could explain if it was just like got caught up in the bureaucracy or what. I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea of that being an emergent property of human beings as we evolve has always been fascinating to me, because there's certainly something that goes on with human communication other than we make sounds that represent objects and physical things, and that the other person interprets those sounds and understands it. There's communication between human beings that's...
acoustic communication, like the symbol rate, if you will, is really slow. Like if you were able to consciously communicate, AKA, the hokey term like telepathy, right? And it's funny because that's what a lot of people espouse that have had, alleged contacts, right? A lot of the people that Dr. John Mack at Harvard studied over the years, where they felt like they were getting hit with like a QR code. It was like instant knowledge, or they heard like somebody speaking to them non-verbally in some way that they couldn't even conceptualize through, acoustic communication or talk, if you will. And it's the same thing like book Proof of Heaven by Dr. Eben Alexander, MD. I remember reading it when I was in Afghanistan, and I was like, this is a crazy experience. This medical doctor has necrotizing fasciitis of the brain, is a near-death experience, and he gets this like crazy, like the feelings of love, other stuff. It's a really interesting book. It's like a scientific take on a doctor's own near-death experience. But when he came back, and somehow the fasciitis didn't eat away his brain and he was cognitively normal, he tried to write down what information or facts of the universe he learned during his NDE, and he couldn't even put it in English. It was like crazy. He didn't know how to translate it into our language. It was just, there was no like adjectives, if you were, adverbs, etc., that could describe the knowledge that he knew like natively when he had that near-death experience. It's a really fascinating book, and he talks about the disease he had and his physiological condition at the time. Really interesting.
What was he able to discern from that? Like, what was the overall message?
Yeah, it was like this, like there's the message of love, which that's positive, but it was like this interconnectedness. Everybody is kind of connected in a way that they don't really realize. I mean, you think about, this is getting really trippy. So a lot of thoughts with people who are smarter than me. I like to talk to them about this kind of stuff, where if you're, say, a higher dimensional sentience, right, the act of creation, so act of creation for 3D beings is having a baby, right? It's producing another 3-dimensional object. Well, if you're in 5-dimensional space, or even, I guess, 4-dimensional physical space, what if act of creation is creating other conscious realities and other universes? And the act of creation is creating the universe where you, me, Jamie, whatever, we might be connected to the same, I'll call it universal consciousness, or a higher dimensional sentient life force or life form. I know that sounds like really out there, but when you think about it, there's a lot of other theologies out there that basically espouse that. I have a very good friend of mine who's PhD level, kind of higher up in the Mormon church, and basically the Mormon theology is kind of like that. The Mormons say you were once with God or like God, but then you were sent down to like a lower plane of existence, and that's literally what I'm talking about right now, but just in a secular sense. So maybe we're all created beings from, and this, this doesn't like hurt Christian theology, whatever. It's actually kind of enforcing the fact there's a creator, and we're literally created in the image of a creator, literally. And that's kind of what life really is. It's like, think about it's like a weird 3D plus time temporal sensory experience for a higher dimensional sentience. You're here to experience time in this weird linear fashion and to experience yourself divorced from yourself to gain knowledge and to report back is maybe what life is. And that's just kind of my own personal theology as a summation of just during COVID, I was really bored. And that's what I was looking at.
Well, I extrapolate that to the creation of AI. And I think if you think about human beings as who creates things, I think ultimately we create a new life.
Exactly. What if higher sentience is creating some kind of artificial intelligence, call it like a Commander Data from Star Trek Next Gen, right? Mm-hmm. Not even really, it's made in the image of the creator in some sense, but it's not even, and that's what might get sent into these like long endurance missions. And of course, people are like, well, why would they come here so far to crash, etc.? Or are they crashing on purpose? Do you know that for a fact? Or are they crashing by accident? And what if they're like von Neumann replicating probes, right? You can Google that, but what if they're just throwaway, which von Neumann probes are just like throwaway spacecraft? Like, yeah, they're just, we send it out, we don't really care what the mission success is, or they're seeding us, or as Jacques Vallée says, it's like, here's the key, and you unlock the cage kind of thing, right? Yeah.
All units in the area, disorderly conduct reported in Watson.
I mean, if you think about biological
331 responding.
So long,
On my way,
lengthy
dispatch.
Process. And if
But only because I like
that
you.
led us to the creation of a technology that's far superior in terms of its capabilities of understanding and thinking, that seems to be what's happening. And that's one of the reasons why so many people are concerned about it. The term artificial intelligence is a very strange term because it's not artificial. It's intelligence.
It's silicon-based and a carbon-based, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have blood and tissue and cells, but it has something that's superior, but also has something that's much more scalable, right? We have a very obvious biological limitation in terms of evolution. If you look at evolution, when we turn back to the orangutans that are fishing, they're obviously learning new things, and those new properties from those new things we assume will be encoded in their genetics and then passed to their children. Do you have children?
No, I have 3 dogs. We went the fluffy. I'm a fluffy dad.
The problem is dogs don't learn from. Well, they do, but one of the most bizarre things about children is that they have properties that are clearly
Code 0. I repeat, Code 0 in this area. All units resume normal duties.
My children obviously have the example of my wife and myself. They obviously see a lot of how we live our life and discipline and work, creativity, and all those things. But there's also they seem to have gifts that are they seem to be clearly genetic and artistic gifts that just seem extraordinary, that are unusual. That I had when I was younger, that I was an illustrator. I have a young daughter that's just extraordinarily good at art.
Really? You used to illustrate?
Yeah. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a comic illustrator.
Oh, interesting.
But then I have this other daughter that's super gifted at that. Like she can learn things really quickly. It's extraordinary. It's weird. And also this drive that she has. I had a drive from poverty and from a lot of stuff that was wrong with my childhood. It seemed to me I had this need to prove myself. She doesn't have any of those problems, but she also has this insane drive. It's weird. It's a weird discipline. It's extraordinary. It seems to be very different than most kids. And I just think that's an emerging genetic. I think there's something encoded in whatever you are as a human that as you replicate and as you have children, they have that. They have some of that. Yeah. And I think that is this process, this biological evolutionary process with humans, but there's so much chaos. There's so much. I mean, you can breed with a dumb person, and you can find a hot dumb person and have a baby with them. Now your kid's fucked. Yeah. And then we see that. There's like this obviously Some people are just born with brains that just don't work that well. It's just like, I'm sure you've met some dull-minded people, and you try to talk to them about things, and there's no one there. You right? So okay, good luck. Good luck with whatever children you have, and what are they gonna have?
Well, then we're genetically encoding artificial
Right.
intelligence now. Kind of, I think that's where you were going.
Yeah, what I'm going with
yeah.
is that, like these biological limitations that we have. It's very clear that we're essentially dealing with a Model T as opposed to a Tesla, which is just insanely superior to these ancient vehicles. We create technology. I've always said this: if you looked at the human race, if you were some sort of an outside observer and you stumbled upon this thing that occupies this planet, this apex predator of this planet, you would say, what is this thing doing? What's making technology? All the other things that it does all these other things, but what do these things generally motivate? What do they move towards? They move towards the advancement of technology and innovation. That is a constant aspect of human beings. If you trace us back to the earliest civilizations to what we have today, things constantly improve unless something goes horribly wrong. Unless there's some sort of a natural disaster or some sort of genocide. If something doesn't happen to these creatures, what do? They consistently make better things. Well, that, if you follow that to its natural progression, well, what is that going to get to? Well, once they've invented computers, once they've invented devices, and once they've invented things that enhance their personal understanding of the world around them, which we already have now with phones, we already have with the internet, we already have with our ability to communicate with each other. The newest, latest Android phones that are coming out will translate natively on your phone in real time in conversation. So you could be speaking Portuguese to me, I would hear it in English on a phone call, which is fucking wild.
It's crazy. That's like Universal Translator in Star Trek, literally.
Yes, literally.
Yeah.
Well, that is a real thing now. That outfit, if you use Google Translate, it's native to the latest Android operating system. You could if you just sit down and said, well, where's that going? Well, it's going to something way more sophisticated and way more capable than we are biologically with our limitations. Our monkey bodies, we are the ancestors or the people that emerged from that distant cousin, that orangutan that's using a stick to hunt fish. We're going in this direction.
Yeah.
What would be the most logical way we would completely accelerate that? We create something that does what we do, but does it way better.
Yeah, it's almost like to permanently harbor our consciousness eventually, right?
Right. And
that kind of makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
it does make sense. Yeah. And there's a sort of understanding of that leads to this fear of our demise. That everyone, Elon's openly discussed this. Sam Altman and I were talking about it. What OpenAI is doing, what ChatGPT 4 versus ChatGPT 5, which is going to be insanely superior. Well, what is ChatGPT 15 going to do? Is that going to be the president of the world? What are we going to bypass government and just say, it's obvious, like, this administration is incredibly corrupt and flawed and influenced by the military-industrial complex. It's not good for the world. It's not good for the environment. We need something that is far superior, that doesn't have all these motivations. Well, what would that be? That would be an artificial intelligence creator that or a creation rather, that we use to govern life. Yeah. I mean, that sounds nuts, but I think that's probably a better solution than humans with all of our fucking flaws and issues and greed and envy and all the things that we have. That would be a better version of it. But what are we saying then? Are we saying that we're
programming
obsolete?
like empathy into it though?
Probably not. Probably not, which is terrifying. But we will become obsolete, or we will merge. And if we merge, it will completely change what we are. And I think that's very likely what's going to take place. I think the initial stages will be some sort of a merging with technology, and then from that merging, it will essentially we'll realize, well, why are we even fucking around? Like this new thing is so superior, and it doesn't have all the pitfalls. It doesn't have all the problems. It's not short-sighted. It's not going to drain the ocean of fish so that we can make sushi. It's going to do something. It's going to be far more aware of all of the different effects of each individual act and how we affect everything around us and what is net positive and what is net negative and how to avoid all these things. I really firmly believe that we are this biological caterpillar that is making a cocoon to create the electronic butterfly. And we don't even know what we're doing while we're doing it. We're just doing it. And I think materialism is also baked into that. One of the main problems with human beings in terms of like the ridiculousness of our actions. We're so materialistic. People are constantly wanting to get the newest, latest, greatest thing. Well, what's the motivation behind that other than social status? Well, the motivation is that that's what fuels innovation. If you do, like if we all just stopped right now and said, hey, you know what? iPhone 15 is pretty fucking dope. We don't need to make new iPhones. Let's just keep fixing those and just like exist the way we are right now. And let's clean up the air. Let's clean up the ocean. Let's clean up the sea and clean up the rivers and clean up the forest. Like, let's just fix the earth. And then, no, we don't do that. But no, I want iPhone 16. You know, when is the iPhone going to be able to communicate completely just with satellites? We don't have to worry about cell phones.
Well, it's almost like a drug addiction, right? They did studies where people receiving in text messages is a dopamine rush too.
Yeah.
So it's almost like an artificial drug addiction you're fueling because you want the more responsive tech, more integrating with make easier so you can get your fix quicker and more efficiently or something like that. I don't know.
Right, and why?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, why would fucking staring at a screen
It does that.
and you get addicted to your goddamn phone. And then why would it be that we would innovate and create things like Instagram and TikTok that are insane to the point where you look down and you've spent 3 hours staring at nothing, nonsense. Like, why is that? Well, that ensures continual use of this device until it lures you into this ultimate integration.
Well, it's right where there's people like Meta, I guess, this where they actually have a whole team of scientists to make their apps more addictive, right? So, yeah.
Fucking demons.
Yeah, I don't use social media. I have never tweeted in my life.
Really? That's amazing.
I mean, I have like I used Facebook back in the day when it first came out when I was going to college. I don't have Instagram. I've never tweeted in my life. I don't intend to because you don't want to get sucked into that mind virus, which is like people responding to you. They feel like you have to respond back. I don't even.
Well, I'm very aware of those traps, so I don't do that.
Yeah.
I used to, but many years ago I stopped. Overall, like there's positive aspects to it. It's great for people that like you and their fans. It's great that you're an actual human being who interact. Occasionally I comment on a post like that's really awesome. Congratulations, that kind of stuff. But then I get the fuck out of there and I don't read any responses. And I found that that's the very best way to mitigate all the negative aspects of social media. But then you're also dealing with algorithms. You're dealing with things that recognize what makes you more likely to engage. And so those things are constantly showing you the things you engage. And, it's not necessarily even positive. It's just whatever you engage with. That's what's coming your way. Whether it could be cool stuff, like maybe you're just like really into muscle cars and it shows you a lot of muscle cars, or it could be like murder. Like I see a lot of murder on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I'm a car guy, so like my feed is like, oh, do you ever think about this mod for your Ford Bronco? Ooh, those lights look nice. I'm gonna wire that shit up next week. You know, so
I get those too.
It's bad. So.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. I have a car problem.
Yeah, my wife doesn't allow me to have the good stuff anymore, so I have to, keep it under a certain price.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'm more actually interested in old stuff than I am in new stuff.
Yeah, you like rat rod stuff, right?
Well, I like muscle cars. Like very specifically 1960s muscle cars. Those are my favorite because what they are to me is it's a toy that you could drive.
Yeah.
It's like a ride that gives me immense pleasure to just drive around in. It's really fun. I don't even have to go fast. It's just going around in a 1970 Chevelle, just driving it. It's hard to describe for someone who has never experienced it, but it's just so engaging, and it's like you're on this drug.
Yeah.
It's like everything you feel, all of it, and you're engaging all of these senses.
It's very tactile, very mechanical.
Yes.
I totally understand that. I mean, the only kind of old cars I like are like black Lincoln Continental suicide doors from the Matrix. I remember seeing that when I was a teen when the Matrix came out. I'm like, that car's badass.
Yeah.
It's like totally. I want like to have whatever Morpheus drove.
They're art.
Yeah.
They're essentially art. It's functional art. Like it's a piece of art that you could actually drive around in.
Yeah.
And it gives you this very bizarre sensation. But the point is that like that's not most people. Most people want the newest, latest, greatest thing. And there's a motivation to get the newest, latest, greatest thing that I think if you just follow that up to its logical conclusion, it's going to create life. It's going to create, I mean, how many films have been made about this? You know, Ex Machina and all these different films.
That's right, yeah.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to do, I mean, there's no way we're not going to do that. If I had a bet on one thing, if the human race doesn't get wiped out by a meteor or a nuclear war, we're going to fucking do that. We're going to make a life form. 100%. And it's going to be almost instantaneously able to figure out all the flaws in its own personal programming and make a much better version of itself. If it's sentient, it has the ability to make decisions.
Well, I think we're close. I mean, I think I saw some stuff. There's like a OpenAI fiasco going on right now. There's rumor that they might have cracked artificial general intelligence, right, AGI, and that's frightening. I mean, there's like, was it Sam Altman, I think we were talking about. I think there's like the board of OpenAI. There's some shuffle. I was just reading.
They just removed
when
him
I woke up this morning.
Right back.
Yeah.
Well, they removed him, but then apparently the shareholders were like, what the fuck are you doing? And there was so much outrage that they're trying to bring him back, like instantly. So, but Elon had a very good point. Like, what was the motivation behind that? And when you think about the implications for humanity as a whole, because this is such an emerging technology that's so overwhelmingly powerful, what happened? Like, what's going on? Like, I think this is one of those things where, like, we need to know, like, what was the motivation behind the decision? And if it was that he was holding back information about the actual creation of artificial general intelligence, that it's already happened, and that he's like hesitant because he's a little cagey in how he talks about stuff. When I was talking to him about, you could tell like, it's like a little bit like he kind of knows that he's at the forefront of this technology that worst case scenario replaces us.
Yeah, and going back to the program with any kind of empathy, etc., depending on if it handles critical. I guess the thing I saw in the government was like a lot of cyber stuff in my career. As AI gets more advanced, you create, say, offensive cyber tools that literally have a mind of their own. And if, say, theoretically you release that on some target, and you might not be able to touch that target again. Say it's a one-time, whoop, you put it in there. Well, how do you control it? It's almost like Skynet and the Terminator. I hate to use that analogy, but like that was my fear when I was working at certain agencies working on offensive cyber tools. I'm like, oh my God, this is not good. And then of course with cyber, right, it's the attribution, actor attribution is the biggest thing. How do you know it was, hypothetically, Russia that used the cyber weapon to attack you? It could have been another actor masquerading as that foreign power, using tactics, techniques, procedures, IP proxy operations to hide where it was coming from. So it's like you have non-kinetic fires that can potentially create mutually assured destruction because you could take out critical infrastructure, blow up the power grid, etc.
What's happening?
No radiation, but potentially no attribution, or confuse the attribution such that you don't even know who to go to war with. It's like really scary. So
it is scary.
Yeah, that's just my own.
It's already happening in social media.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how many troll farms there are on social media that are just stirring up discontent.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's an active program that we know that Russia uses that's trying to undermine democracy and try to keep people fighting with each other. And it's been very effective. I mean, if you look at it, it's just fucking chaos. It's just people yelling at each other, particularly Twitter or X, and Facebook. It's like a lot of what's going on. One of the studies showed that out of the top 20 Christian sites that are on Facebook, 19 of them are run by Russian troll farms. So if we know that on a like relatively rudimentary scale. If you look at the impact of social media versus the impact of artificial intelligence, they're already doing that. They're already hiding who's responsible and what's the goal and how to manipulate consciousness and how to manipulate influence and how people think about things and what the public opinion on things are. It's already very effective. You would imagine that a creation of artificial intelligence would radically accelerate that.
Oh, 100%. Then I remember the deepfake stuff was a real problem for my old community because we're like, shit, you could really fake some stuff, and you got to develop algorithms to make sure you can analyze. Oh, hey, that is fake. Because you've seen some of the deep fakes where it's like Obama or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
You know, the Tom Cruise guy.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit!
Holy shit!
That is crazy.
Crazy.
Like you're going to be able to bring actors from the dead back at this point.
100%.
You're going to have like Cary Grant. Doing a musical or whatever, soon,
Well,
so, yeah.
Bruce Willis, who has some sort of degenerative neurological condition, sold his likeness for the ability to make commercials and all sorts of other things. Like, he's essentially saying he's fading, unfortunately, and now he will give this thing, which is this property, which is Bruce Willis, this famous person, and they'll be able to create versions of him starring in films.
Oh, and certainly if you train an AI model just like ChatGPT, you could actually get almost like what they would normally say, their knowledge.
100%.
And it's almost like having a permanent historian too. You could if you want to talk to Clint Eastwood about his films in the 60s after Clint Eastwood, passes, may he live forever, but like it'd be crazy. It'd be really interesting. But
I mean, he might actually be able to give you advice. He might be your personal advisor.
I know. That'd be cool.
I mean, that's probably one of the things that's going to come out of this. But when we think about empathy, we also think about just human beings and the way we communicate and interact with each other. Empathy is very important. And also compassion and forgiveness. All these things are very important qualities because we recognize that we're very flawed. But when you create something that is not flawed, then the need for empathy, the need for all these things that we attach to human emotions and human reward systems, they'll no longer be a significant issue because you're going to be dealing with something that operates on a higher plane. It might be the answer to all that ails us, which is so terrifying for us because we recognize that what we derive, the joy that we derive from love, from companionship, from friendship, from community, it's like a key component to life on Earth for us. But it's also because we recognize that without that, we are the Mongols. Without that, we're Nazi Germany. Without that, we're Hamas. We're whatever the fuck we are that we recognize as being like evil or dangerous or horrible about humans. When we think about the worst case scenario for human beings, we always think about things like the Holocaust. We think about what is the worst acts that human beings are capable of with our current programming and our biological flaws. Like, what are the worst things we could do? Terrible, awful things. Well, if we don't have those problems, if we no longer have envy, we no longer have greed, we no longer have evil, if we don't have any of those properties, they don't exist anymore. We just have this new form of consciousness that's far superior.
That's an interesting parallel because you have, you're no longer maybe apex sentience if you have artificial intelligence, governing certain things.
Right.
And I think that's also kind of this psychological issue with this UAP issue where we might not be the apex predator. We may be that mountain lion, and and we're going to have to be comfortable knowing that we're going to be vulnerable. There's people far superior that may have malevolent intentions, maybe not, I don't know. And almost be humbled the fact that, like, sorry, we're not the smartest of God's creation. And that might be really hard for a lot of people to process. And I think that's probably certainly, I would imagine, one of the deliberations they must have done years ago. Where like, oh, we can't disclose because, people are not going to feel comfortable in that worldview.
100%. And they're not. And then I wonder if these things that we're experiencing are the natural progression of what happens when you do seed life on planet, or you do accelerate biological life. You do have some sort of a genetic intervention where you take this thing that it has emerging intelligence and you accelerate it. And that
Selling
thing will in
anything interesting?
turn, with all of its desire for innovation and creativity, and also all of its desire to control resources and have power and have influence, that it will eventually lead to the creation of what we're seeing. That these things are the next stage of this process. And that maybe we're dealing with one form of that next stage, but there's another stage that's 1,000,000 years more advanced than that, that's far superior, that doesn't even have a biological limitation in terms of physical space, that it exists completely in some other undetectable realm. That is not no longer thinks about biological limitations of life and death and communication. It exists completely in some other space.
You offer any other
That's what these
services?
things are. And then I always wonder
Sometimes, after
when there's
hours,
a crash,
but at the
or when
moment
there's a
I'm going through
body,
a
or
bit
when
of a
there's a this that.
rebranding.
Like, and people saying, well, what if they're so advanced? Why are they crashing? Well, hold on. Which version are we looking at? We're not saying there's one thing that's visiting us. If there's one thing that's visiting us and we know where this one thing is, we could say, oh, well, that thing, it deals with a completely different solar system that's not as vulnerable. It doesn't have asteroid clouds. It doesn't have all these different things where it's like, it doesn't have a planet that has super volcanoes. Maybe life evolved in a more stable environment and it allowed it to get to a far greater technological level, but not the ultimate.
Yeah, we might be testing the extent of their adaptability, and like I said, are they crashing by accident,
Right.
mission failure, or on purpose?
Right.
So, and then of course with the far distances and everything, if they're traveling here through some kind of space-time metric engineering construct, the distances are not as vast as you think, right?
Right.
They could be going through some kind of, traversable wormhole or something like that, where it's like a walk down the street for them. It's not 1,000 light years.
Well, just think about communication. Just our communication used to be you had to get in front of someone and you had to talk to them. So you had to know their language, you had to either nonverbal or verbal communication. You had to figure out a way to say things to them.
Yeah.
That's no longer the case. Obviously, with this new Android operating system, it translates. But also the fact that you could have a fucking FaceTime call with someone in Japan right now, and you instantaneously can communicate back and forth, which is insane.
That's a vast distance, but for us, it's like stupid. It's like easy.
Vast distance and
We're tunneling.
instantaneous. Yeah. I mean, I was just in Scotland, and I was FaceTiming with my daughter back home. It's fucking crazy. You're 9 hours by plane, and you're having instantaneous communication, which is wild shit. But that's fucking, that's like Pong. That's Morse code. That's like, it's very primitive in terms of what if you physically can be in these places instantaneous?
Yeah.
And why would we assume that that's not eventually going to be on the menu?
Yeah, it's just like the conventional propulsion stuff. We're not using an Elon Musk Starship to get here. It's like they're doing something else.
You talk to someone from the 1800s and you say, you're going to go to Nevada? Jesus Christ, you know how far that is on a wagon?
That's months, man.
Right. But no, you fly to Vegas, it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's fucking easy. We know that now. So why would we assume that there's a limitation to that advancement? I don't think there is.
And of course, a friend of mine, Eric Weinstein, certainly espouses we don't even have the right theoretical frameworks right now. He has his own geometric unity theory, and he's way smarter than I am.
He's too smart.
But
he's confusing.
Yeah.
He starts talking, and you're like,
it's so funny.
down.
If he calls me, I'm like, you got to call me in the morning after my 24-ounce Monster Energy drink, or I can't even keep up, man.
Yeah.
It's like,
He's on another level. He's got some unique theories himself about where all this stuff is coming from, and it's all very, very, very interesting and intriguing, but also makes sense. All of it makes sense, including being visited. I had this conversation with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's like, why would they be interested in us? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
We're super interested. Yeah. Neil, I mean, obviously he's a fine science communicator, kind of the successor of kind of the Carl Sagan kind of
I think Carl Sagan was a little bit more open-minded.
Yeah. I like Carl better. But,
I'm more of a fan. I wish he was still alive. I love to smoke weed with that guy. He's really into weed.
Oh, really? Well, I remember my aunt gave me Cosmos by Carl Sagan when I was in middle school. That book was from the 80s, but that book tripped me out. And I was like, I want to study science. And I read, it was Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. And I read those two books when I was like in 8th grade, and I was like, this is trippy. I want to study astronomy. This is insane. But I ultimately used kind of my technical background to be a spook, for the government, but I still observe. I have a big telescope, and I live like super dark skies in Colorado. I still have that boyhood fascination of the cosmos. Now, ironically, I found out something else that kind of confirms that the cosmos is not lifeless, and God paints with a broad brush, as like the Vatican has espoused a couple years ago when they said this is okay with their theology.
I have a theory that the universe itself is God. I think
that's like what I was talking about with the multidimensional creator creating universes. Yeah,
I think we have a very limited idea of when we say God. When God created the heavens, and right. But what are we saying? I think it's the universe itself. I think it's one thing, and that this one thing, it seeks to create these things that continually push the envelope and may be gods themselves eventually. I think if you extrapolate from our ability versus the ability of an amoeba, and you continue to move that along, what does that do? Well, it's going to be able to create universes. There's already been like theoretical papers that have been written about the creation of other things like black holes, other things like a universe. So what is involved in the creation of a universe? What is involved in the Big Bang? Can that be replicated? Well, not now, but if AI becomes sentient and AI eventually makes far greater versions of itself, if it keeps doing that, like what are the limits of its potential?
Creates the Matrix.
Literally creates a simulated environment that's indiscernible. You can't tell the difference between that and regular life. Well, maybe because there is no difference. Maybe that is that's the theory of simulation theory.
Yeah, simulation theory. Yeah, familiar, and that is a possibility because the universe seems like a little too perfect. It's a little strange, very created to me. So just like we're in the Goldilocks zone, perfect temperature, like it's just real
how about the Big Bang itself? Like, what happened? Something smaller than the head of a pin, for no known reason, becomes everything. Okay.
And what's the universe expanding into?
Right.
It's like a quantum foam or whatever the heck the latest theory is that's like beyond me.
And then it perhaps just retracts back down to that infinitely small thing and then expands again. And that this is an endless cycle, and that we're just so limited because of our biological limitations, or our life and death is such a small little tiny blip. It's so minuscule in terms of just the overall known life of the universe. And then you have the James Webb telescope that's there's people that question the actual length of time that occurred between the Big Bang and now, that maybe it might be far longer. And there's people like Brian Keating that say that's not correct. It's just a lack of understanding of what we understand currently about the creation of galaxies.
Yeah, because obviously the length of the age of the universe keeps on getting older and older, and a lot of that's because of the Doppler shift, right? The red shift. As the galaxies are accelerating away, we can calculate what their origin point probably was and how long it took for them to speed up like that.
So. And only based on our current understanding.
Yes.
Which is obviously at least fairly limited in terms of what its potential is.
Well, yeah, like we still don't quite understand the origin of the moon. The moon is at the right location that causes solar and lunar eclipses. It's like the right apparent size to block out the sun. It's like super weird. Same thing with like Mars. We're not sure like what happened there, where Mars, had some probable life on it. Either a protoplanet hit it, or there was some kind of impact that vaporized stuff, and like who knows?
Who knows? And this is just this little tiny neighborhood that we're looking at. It's like we are in our backyard looking for evidence of like life in Africa. Like you're not gonna figure it out here. We're just looking at it at such a small scale, in terms of what we could potentially discover or potentially observe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I often wonder, you know, when we're seeing, especially with the idea of UAPs, UFO crafts, if we're seeing a version of what we will become or something like us becomes if given enough time.
Well, that is, there's like a Dr. Mike Masters at Montana State. He literally postulates, you know, he says time travelers, we could debate time travel, but you know, like he thinks it might be like a advanced form of Homo sapien is what we're seeing coming back.
Yeah.
Like a breakaway civilization, and we're coming back to see an older version of ourself that was left on Earth or something like that.
Well, the way
So,
we would
yeah.
visit like North Sentinel Island and visit those people that are trapped on that island that are uncontacted. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then a lot of, you know, there's also like cargo cult religions and stuff. You know, the South Pacific in World War II, they worshipped the you know, P-51 and stuff like they thought those were UFOs, but really they were just us. You know.
Yeah.
So, and
But
I think
we were probably alien to them. I mean,
Oh,
if
100%.
something comes,
Yeah.
I mean, just look at how Cortez looked to the people that, you know, had no idea that people could ride horses. Like, what the fuck is going on? These guys are riding horses?
Yeah.
Like, these are gods.
these white guys coming
yeah,
in.
it's
What
just
the
insane. They come on a ship in the ocean and they ride horses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it's all based on our limited understanding. And for someone, whether it's the federal government or whether it's military contractors, for someone to have key elements that could give us a better understanding of this whole picture, it's really inexcusable to not relay that to all of humanity. So this is too much information to be secret. It's too important. If it is real, it's too important for someone to have access to just because they have power and money and influence.
Yeah.
It seems insane.
I mean, that's the whole primer for what I did. I mean, it's myself if I didn't try to make it because, you know, very uncomfortable, personal privacy, and then, you know, professional and personal health is at risk.
It also seems like public understanding and appreciation of these things, particularly after the 2017 article in the New York Times, has changed. There's been a shift. Whereas before, if you would talk about UFOs or the idea of extraterrestrial life, you were automatically lumped into this group of people that believes in Bigfoot. You know, it's like you're in the Loch Ness Monster. You're kind of a loon who likes fringe things because you probably got problems in your own life you're not addressing, and so you're distracted. It's like a gambler or something like that. You're just like distracting yourself with this craziness in order to ignore the reality of existence itself, which is so complicated and difficult to manage. And then I think that if we had a better understanding of the overall scale of the potential of life in the universe based on what we know, like physical evidence, undeniable physical evidence that shows us that we're not alone. That would be a massive change in just the overall shift of consciousness. We can understand that these territorial disputes that we have, which are almost always over resources or over land or over religions and ideologies, if we could understand that these are nonsense in the vast scope of the universe itself. And this is there's that effect that the people that get into the space station have, and astronauts.
Oh,
overview effect.
Overview effect, yes.
Yeah.
William Shatner had that when he went up in the Blue Origin thing.
I'm sure everybody has it. I mean, I'm sure it's just like you go like, oh my god, like this is one.
And that's how I felt. I mean, like after I found all this stuff, I could have continued my career. You know, made lieutenant colonel here this winter, made senior executive service in a year or two, did national security stuff. But I'm like sitting in my office, and I'm like, there's better things for me to care about than Russian troop movements. We're not alone.
Right.
So, like I have to like listen. This is insane because certainly the people who we talked to are not lying, and the documents I meticulously went through, they were not forgeries, they were not deception material. So it's just like you have to do something.
I'm sure you've seen those Freedom of Information Act disclosure papers from the CIA from the 1950s, where they're detailing all the various forms of life and that we know are currently exist. And You remember that, Jamie? We pulled up that document. You think you could find it? Jamie will find it. But it's 1950 something where they were discussing these things.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure which ones you're talking about. I'd have to see them. So,
It's pretty weird stuff because, like, if they knew about this in the 1950s, like, how did they know?
well, there was like CIA docs about consciousness, like weird remote viewing stuff. I mean, besides the Stargate program that were released in the FOIA reading room on CIA's website too, that are pretty trippy. Where like, wow, CIA's looking into some really interesting stuff. I mean, they're a hardcore intel agency. What's going on?
But it makes sense that they would kind of have to find out if that's bullshit or not. Like, you can't ignore that if you're really doing your job. Your job is intelligence. Like, okay, like, let's look at this.
It's an aspect of the phenomenon because they reach out from the crash program like, hey, I need you to look into some weird stuff because it might be the key unlock for something that we got in a warehouse. You know?
Yeah. So, whoa. Yeah. So, as it stands right now, what's the future for this stuff? What's the future for these disclosures and what are the bottlenecks?
Well, I mean, certainly from the governmental process, you know, as long as the House doesn't kill this Schumer amendment, and that's why I'm discussing it here with you, because they don't pass it, it's going to be the greatest setback to humankind in U.S. history, literally. So the presidential panel gets impaneled about 90 days or so after the passage of the bill. So by Christmas, as long as it doesn't get killed, will be in the National Defense Authorization Act. The panel will be formed, say February, March. Then they have a 300-day process to develop a initial plan for the president. And I don't know if Chuck Schumer and his staff are being kind of crafty or whatever, but for 300 days, if you actually do it out, it's like the election. So I don't know if they want to make it an election issue, which certainly if this act doesn't pass, I think it needs to be an election issue because the senior executive needs to rule on this if Congress can't get their shit together, to be quite honest. And we have a plan out to 2030 where this stuff starts getting rolled out. Knock on wood, perfect storm, things could get delayed. But then in parallel, and that's kind of why I found the Soul Foundation, Peter Skafish, who's an anthropologist as well, is we wanted to figure out the STEM outreach. We wanted to figure out the public policy, national policy to advise the U.S. and its allies on this issue. You know, we're happy. Like I said, I'm not here to slap the government in its entirety and admonish everybody. Like, I think there needs to be a true foundation process. But our foundation, we want to be like, okay, well, bring us in as a think tank. If, based on my experience and experience of my colleagues, like, you have an issue with X, well, let's figure out how to roll this out and how to, incentivize the National Science Foundation to look in this. Make this like, it's dual use, right? You might develop a unique scientific process that actually works well with nanobiology or something like that, but also has dual use with UAP. So there's parallel tracks. I mean, there's public discovery. There's like the Galileo project with Avi Loeb, right? That they're trying to, on their own, collect techno-signatures, which is, I applaud that. I mean, obviously the government knows a lot about that, but we don't want to obviously rely on the U.S. government to do all the work for us and also to be honest. So I think having a parallel track, and, Galileo project, Soul Foundation, Brian Graves, Foundation as well, who've seen unique things to provide that data to people. So I think you got to have those dual tracks, and hopefully we can create a tsunami event for the U.S. government and its allies, and maybe our adversaries. But really, if the U.S. government doesn't get their house in order here, I mean, you have uncontrolled disclosure events such that either maybe the non-human intelligence is like, yeah, let's do it, or what if one of our adversaries decides to disclose and they become the messiah figure on this, and we lose sovereignty or national supremacy in that regard from an open and honest civil society perspective. But I think the we're getting close, I think, as long as...
We're certainly closer than we've ever been before.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they brought you in to have these conversations.
Yeah, no, I'm still advising the U.S. government on this, and I'm trying to carefully message this,
crime
put
activity
all the
reported
broad
off Willow Street.
things on the
APB
table.
outbound 1,
And I'm not trying to be
Shinobu
coy, I'm
Iman,
not trying to conceal anything, but it's like there's real national security and collateral damage
on multiple counts of human
with
trafficking.
just releasing this willy-nilly. I'm
City
just trying to
officials
get the
are
government to
offering a
get a
reward
plan
for
together
neutralizing
here
Ivan's criminal
and
network
just
in the
be
Willow
open
Street
and honest
area.
with the people of the world, really. So.
And there's still the bottleneck with these military contractors that allegedly have access to these things.
Yeah, and like to those guys, and I know some of them, and the individuals that hold the keys, like this is a boon. Like this is, don't look at it like you're going to lose money. This is a recruiting opportunity. Yes, you're going to have to let other people in the cookie jar. That's how a fair and free society works, and they should be able to compete for work. And because that was one of the main, I talked to some individuals that were in an informal session for a previous administration on should we disclose or not with the former president, and really insightful what they told me. And one of the biggest impasses to disclosure wasn't the ontological shock from a socioeconomic or theological perspective. It was, well, there's some white-collar crime. We violated the federal acquisition regulations. We sole-sourced this work to some big companies for decades. Contractors are going to litigate this to the Supreme Court, saying they lost billions of projected income because they didn't get the bid on the work. And it's going to be this, like, liability disaster for the U.S. government. And the problem with that is like, I understand that, but, like, that's why you need to have a truth and reconciliation process. It's almost like the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in post-apartheid South Africa, where people who committed, like, murder came in and was like, this is what happened. Here you go. And, you know, they don't get convicted of those crimes. And I'm not saying, I mean, people who've committed murder as it relates to this subject, okay, we should probably hold them accountable. But for some of this stuff, there needs to be a process where we kind of mitigate some of those unfortunate legal issues. But that was one of the main issues a certain group for a reasonably recent administration came up with and advised that president, hey, look, there's going to be a lot of Supreme Court stuff. Let's not be that guy. So it's like that's the barrier. That's the reason. Come on.
Well,
it's so ridiculous.
It makes sense though that they would think that way, because I do believe that lawsuits would emerge from something like that.
Oh, certainly, and it's also like the government admitting that we can't protect its citizenry. You know, these non-human intelligence, want to do something to you. Sorry, we don't have any countermeasures to that. It's like this. There's a social contract between the citizens and the government.
Right.
We can protect you, etc. And like in this case, it's like it's an enigma. But I think this is almost like you remember like after 9/11, I was in high school when 9/11 happened, and people were afraid of dirty bombs, terrorists. We didn't know what was going to happen next. We lived in fear, but we banded together in the presence of fear and apprehension and unknowing what the world was going to be, and we made it through it. Now, I mean, that's a coarse analogy to this, but people just have to think in that mindset, like it's going to be a little scary. It's not going to be like kumbaya. Let's move the shit to the Smithsonian and check it out. It's going to be this, awkward and things we're going to have to address sociologically, I guess.
Are you optimistic about how all this lays out?
I am. I mean, it's kind of like when I was testifying in the public hearing, oddly bipartisan in a good way. I had AOC and Matt Gaetz like agreeing on something, and they were like smiling at each other.
That's
okay,
crazy.
This is crazy. I'm like, look at, there's AOC, there's Matt Gaetz, there's Tim Burchett. I mean, there's like people, Garcia, like people that wouldn't see eye to eye on most subjects.
It's such a human issue.
Because they want to know the truth too.
Right.
And I don't think the leaders in Congress want to be told that they're second-class citizens. I mean, a lot of presidents weren't briefed everything. Some presidents knew a lot more than others, and I have a pretty good beat on that. And it's like, wait, the chief executive that also forms foreign policy, you don't tell them about ostensibly a foreign element. So how do they, as chief of state, how do they form foreign policy when you don't fully brief them on a foreign element? It's like classifying the existence of Russia.
Right.
So you're actually, non-constitutional by not allowing our commander-in-chief all information sometimes. And I don't know what Harry Reid talked to Joe Biden. I mean, it was certainly the substance that I mentioned here. And I hope that Joe Biden has been briefed on the program, so to speak. At least I'm giving him an oral unclassified briefing right now. I guess if he hasn't been, and I'm happy to talk to Jake Sullivan or Avril Haines. And Avril Haines, if she's not briefed, like she's supposed to be briefed to all intelligence in the country. It's 50 U.S. Code Section 3024. The Director of National Intelligence has allowed everything from all federal agencies that's intel related. Well, ma'am, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you have a problem because you're not being briefed by CIA director and some other agencies. So,
well, listen, David, I really appreciate what you've done. I think you've done a great service to humanity by taking a stand and communicating these ideas and letting people know how much of this is real. And you've opened up a world of discourse that probably would not have existed if you hadn't done that.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, this was not easy.
I'm sure.
So,
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for being here, and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, bye, everybody.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night.
You had staffers in the UN's refugee office. Again, keep it in perspective, not a lot of them. Maybe in private they were, but you had some staffers celebrating openly, right, through social media about what happened on the 7th of October, right? You've got, college campuses filled with useful idiots who are happy to, spout the Hamas name.
Joe Rogan podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
As far as like cage fighting commentators.
That's what you're classifying yourself
pothead
as.
comedian / cage fighting commentator.
Fighting commentator.
I got a pretty solid IQ for that.
No, that's great.
So you said it was the average. There's 16% of America that has below 85 IQ.
Correct. So that's the cutoff for military service. So
This
you can't
guy-
take somebody.
This is the kind of talk that started Hitler off. It's like when they start getting some master race eugenic. Because, I would never, ever say that people shouldn't breathe. I would never say it. I would never.
You wouldn't?
I would never.
Are you serious?
If we were in elk hunting camp, I can tell you that. But publicly, I would never say that.
You would never say it on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I don't know what my parents' IQs were. What if my parents were, what if they got IQs and their IQ tests were really low? But I mean, isn't it possible that someone who's not that bright has a super smart kid, like give him enough vaccines, and the kid comes out a genius?
I hope that's the case for my kids. God, I hope so. I hope they got a little bit more than I do.
Yeah.
Life's hard when you're stupid.
Oh my God,
like a
it's
little bit.
so hard when you're dumb. See, I've had conversations with dudes, and like halfway in the conversation, I'm like, this poor motherfucker with his dim light bulb. Like,
typically me. That's the way I feel. Where I'm like, I'm running this thing to the red. Like I've got max RPMs going on up here, down here. Yeah, I had dinner with Eric Weinstein.
yeah,
Like,
see,
dude,
that's what I'm talking about.
it's crazy. I'm just trying to
impossible to keep up.
It's like you're at VO2 max, and he hasn't even stepped off the curb
he's not even
mentally.
sweating.
Yeah, he's like, let me explain this to you. He got out the crayons and drew me some pictures. He's like, this is how it fucking works.
Dude, he literally wrote, I don't even know if it's been disproven. See, this is the thing. The stuff that he discusses is so complex that there's only what's the amount of people in the world that can argue with him about it? He wrote a theory of everything.
The theory of everything.
And he announced it on this podcast. He published this theory, and he's putting it out there for people to judge. And I don't know how it's been received. I don't know, but how would I know? I mean, I would never understand who's like. One of the things that I've learned during COVID, this whole trust the experts thing, suck my dick. Okay, that's nonsense. There's a lot of these people that are fucking full of shit and bought and paid for, and I don't trust just the experts anymore. I trust some experts. I trust if I can understand what they're talking about and I know where maybe their conflicts lie, I can see, well, why would they be ignoring certain studies but highlighting others? Oh, there's a conflict of interest. Oh, there's some money involved. Oh, maybe there's a revolving door and they can get into some nice agency or some corporation after they're done with the agency. I can kind of look at that, but it takes time. With this shit, when what he's talking about, I have no idea who the experts are.
No.
I have no idea what he's literally talking about, a theory of everything.
We were, and it was Brian Callen and me, and it was a wild conversation because.
Did you even get to talk?
Yeah,
With
yeah.
Brian Callen and Eric Weinstein.
Yeah.
How much did you get to talk?
I got to talk like 10% of the time, which I felt
That's
was
a solid number.
Yeah, that's a solid number. Like I
Yeah.
showed up,
Yeah.
I got up to bat. You know, I can't say I ever hit the ball, but I was at least participating.
Dude, I've
I
had
wasn't just breathing.
conversations with Jordan Peterson where we've had a 3.5-hour conversation. I've talked for 3 minutes.
Now, that does not surprise me at all because he can go.
He can
Like,
go.
That guy can
He can
go.
He can go.
Have you watched those the Monk debates
Yes.
with him?
Yes,
Those
I
are
did.
incredible.
Amazing.
Like
Yeah.
him and was it Malcolm Gladwell? That debate when he
Yes.
like, Douglas Murray,
Yes.
Jordan Peterson, like that thing was so good
It's-
because I just love watching those guys intellectually eviscerate people because it's hilarious to me.
I do, but it becomes a bit of an intellectual rap battle. And that's what I don't like about it.
Yeah, okay.
I just feel like it's beneath those guys. And when I see guys like Malcolm like dunking on people, I'm like, shouldn't we just be discussing the data? Like, shouldn't you, instead of trying to invoke an emotional response from someone? I understand why you would do that if you were fucking with someone, if you wanted to like have an argument with someone. But like, what is this publicly for? Why is it public? Well, it's public because we're trying to understand who's right and who's wrong. I want to know why you think the way you think.
Right.
There's clearly many different schools of thought when it comes to many cultural things, and people are fiercely opposed to the other side. I want to know where you're coming from. If you're dunking on people, like now I do know where you're coming from. I don't like that. I don't, because like, first of all, it's not even that funny. If you're going to do it, be good at it. Like, be fucking funny. And also, it's not necessary to this argument, this discussion. You should really be talking about why you really believe what you believe and what you think is wrong with this opposing opinion. Not just being silly.
I love the debate stage. Like I love that forum for two people to take a topic. I used to watch debates. I think PBS used to do a series on just, they take one topic and they chew it up and they figure out where's the crowd before and then where was the crowd after. And they're fascinating because when people are going from opposing points, they're going back and forth if they stick to facts and they don't get personal. Because that's when it actually starts to get like, really now you're just kind of being personal. You're degrading the actual conversation. You're not going, it's not a fight. It's not like, from my perspective, you look at it, you're like, it's kind of like watching a match where you're watching two guys go back and forth, hit for hit.
Yes.
And seeing guys like Jordan and Douglas Murray or some of those guys really flex, it's pretty it's pretty funny to me. Like,
Sam Harris is the GOAT at that.
Yeah.
When it comes to like religious debates. That guy's the best at that shit. Because he has this measured tone and he never loses his cool. And he has so much fucking information. That's when I became a fan of his, is watching those religious debates.
Yeah.
Because like sometimes when people believe a thing so much, they haven't ever looked at the thing the way someone who doesn't believe in the thing looks at it.
Right.
And when you get a guy like Sam who's so eloquent and is not buying it, and he has a bunch of like really logical reasons why he's not buying it. Some of them are pretty funny.
Yeah.
And when he brings those up in front of you and then the audience is laughing, it's like, ooh, this is a tough spot to be in because they're trying to pull out all the stops to try to figure out why you're right.
When you got that much power to not only debate somebody on a subject, with an encyclopedia of information and be funny, so you can be charismatic, you can be logical, you can keep a measured tone. That guy's pretty fucking skilled.
Oh, he's a wizard at that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a wizard at that shit. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. The holidays can be really fun, and they can also be very stressful. It's a lot seeing a ton of family and old friends and traveling. This holiday, it's a game. You know, you're playing. It's like jiu-jitsu. It's like chess. It's like you're playing this game. It's a bunch of moves, and trying to figure out who can get their moves off. But I think people genuinely want to know. Like, did you ever see that movie? There's a documentary about God, what is it called?
What the hell?
The one about Gore Vidal and that. What's that guy? Best of Enemies.
No, I haven't seen
Gore Vidal and what's the fucking other guy's name? I always forget his name. Yeah, William Buckley. So Buckley's the conservative. Gore Vidal.
Yeah.
And they aired these, I think it was on NBC. Is that what it was on? ABC or NBC?
Oh, yeah.
But it got huge ratings. Like they were losing in the ratings, and this was kind of a Hail Mary. Have William F. Buckley as the leading conservative, and Gore Vidal, who's this wild liberal. And so they were on ABC. ABC, news coverage of the Republican National Congress. This is 1968. They're fucking great, man.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that people are learning through podcasts, we talk to guys like Eric Weinstein or guys like Jordan Peterson or Sam Harrison. People want to hear people talk. But they want to. There's the people that are above that 85 IQ. You know, what is it? 84% of the population? The people that are above, those fucking people want to hear how interesting, intelligent people are discussing ideas. Yeah. And you don't see any of that shit on TV. Except Bill Maher show. But even Bill Maher show, there's a lot of people talking over each other.
Yeah.
It's an hour. Everything's got to fit in an hour. It's on HBO. Which is why I think he's doing his own show. He's doing his own.
Yeah, it's like After Dark or something.
Club Ren.
Yeah,
Club Ren. It's very good.
I've seen it.
It's very good, and he's really himself in that. Like the Bill Maher, like you want to chill with Bill and have a drink. Yeah. He really does a fantastic job of just being himself.
Isn't that interesting when you think about Bill Maher and his kind of outward appearance from his political point of view, which is typically going to be loud.
Yeah.
And then guys that go on a show and they have this really complex, interesting conversation, but for a bunch of people, they won't even watch Bill because he's loud.
Yeah.
They won't even watch. So they're going to stick in their echo chamber. They're going to continue to propagate out speaking points from either platform. And you're never going to go out and watch different things just based on a person's political view.
Yeah, but joining a political party or being in a political party, like ideologically in your head, is not good for you. It's bad for, like, there are a lot of things that people who are on the right believe that I agree with. And there's a lot of things that people on the left believe that I agree with. And I refuse. I refuse to be a part of this left versus right thing. I think it's stupid. I think it's bad for us, and I think it's a trap.
Yeah.
I think it's a really dumb trap in America. And Bill Maher says a lot of really wise shit, and he says a lot of shit about culture that goes against the ideology that he's a part of. He's as deep in the Hollywood system as is humanly possible. He's a political host on a show on HBO. I mean, that's like deep Hollywood. You know, he knows where the sex parties are.
Because he's probably the guy setting the pin.
Yeah, he knows who's wearing the goat mask. You know, like if there's a fucking Illuminati in Hollywood, that guy's. Meanwhile, you know, he does all these jokes in his monologue about transitioning kids. About like, hey, maybe we shouldn't just break out the dick saw right away. And I'm like, yo, Bill is going for it.
Yeah.
That's because he never stopped being a comic. Bill Maher, out of all these guys that become hosts of talk shows, he never stopped just being a comic. He never stopped touring. He never stopped doing all of his live shows. Never stopped being a comic. That's what separates Bill. because there's a lot of these guys. Look, man, you get a job like the host of the Tonight Show or something along those lines. That you are fucking set, baby.
Dude, that is
Let's
like...
go. I'm buying a Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean,
I got a house in Maui. You know, like you're balling out of control, and there's a lot of like pressure to keep that going and to appease the people that would make those decisions, and to also be as marketable as humanly possible to everybody out there in the world, so that you can maintain this job. So whether or not there's like verbal, whether or not they sit you down and say, hey, this is what you have to say. You support a woman's right to choose. You support immigration. You support, racists. IDs are racist. Like, there's like things you have to say. You know, with the vaccine, aren't you, Jimmy? Like, I'm with the vaccine. Like, you have to they don't necessarily sit you down and do that, but you fucking know.
Yeah,
you fucking know.
I mean, it's unwitting or witting, essentially extortion to a certain degree, because you're saying if you don't cooperate, you're going to be on the streets,
and you're not going to get picked for stuff.
No,
like it's a tyranny that, like, if there's one person or one group that has the overwhelming part of discerning who makes it or who doesn't make it, they have the ability to choose who's the rock.
Yeah.
They have the ability to choose.
Right.
They're going to put this guy in the movies. Because let me tell you something. As good as Tom Cruise is, and he's a great actor, as good as Brad Pitt is, he's a great actor. There's some unknown 28-year-old that can do exactly what they can
100%.
do right now. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of skill. It's not like boxing.
Right.
Like, we don't know who the best boxer is. We fucking know who the best boxers are. You know? We watch them.
Right.
These guys are out there in like little plays and shit. And you have no idea how good they are because they don't get chosen yet.
Mm-hmm.
And there's thousands of them.
And they're all trying to go to the same spot with a very limited amount of slots for them to get into. And I mean, think about what they have to do.
Window of time.
Yeah. Because you got to get in there while you're attractive, while your skin still looks good, or whatever. I mean, I mean, look at those guys. They're running it as far as they can. How old is Tom Cruise? Like 80?
He's 1,000 years old.
Yeah, he's a vampire. Like,
he looks
could be.
fucking great.
He looks awesome.
He
and
looks
he's still
great.
jumping out of planes. Like, he's flying planes.
Broke
he's jumping out of
his
planes.
fucking ankle on a stunt jumping between two buildings. There's a video of him shattering his ankle.
Yeah. Like, that guy, regardless of like, he could be. Because you got to get in there while you're attractive, while your skin still looks good, or whatever. I mean, look at those guys. They're running it as far as they can. I mean, how old is Tom Cruise? Like 80?
He's 1,000 years old.
Yeah, he's a vampire. Like,
he looks
could be.
fucking great.
He looks awesome.
He
and
looks
he's still
great.
jumping out of planes. Like, he's flying planes.
Broke
he's jumping out of
his
planes.
fucking ankle on a stunt jumping between two buildings. There's a video of him shattering his ankle.
Yeah. Like, that guy, regardless of all the crazy stuff that he said.
I think the crazy stuff he says is a good part of it. I think.
You think so?
Yeah. I think that's why he's so good.
He's
Listen,
like,
man, I swore off dating actresses when I was like 27. I was like, dude, too much work, just too crazy. Especially really good ones.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying if you're a really good actress you have to be nuts, but boy, it would help. It would really help. Because they can lock into a role in some fucking insane way that, you know, like they're crying, screaming and crying. Nothing happened. But they're pretending. But you would think their mom just died right in front of them.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The ability to do that is nuts. And some people just have it. And there's a lot of them out there. And I would imagine if you're really good at that, like, you don't think Daniel Day-Lewis is crazy?
Oh, man. He strikes me as one. He strikes me as
totally
like
crazy.
He also strikes me as fascinating.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What's going on in his brain, being able to compartmentalize emotion and do the things that he's done. Those scenes from There Will Be...
There Will Be Blood.
Yes.
Holy shit, dude.
Dude, when that's when he crushes that guy's skull in the bowling alley in his basement. That might be one of the single greatest scenes in movie history. When he's intense. He is so intense. He's so perfect at that role, and the camera angles and the way that they were they were feeding that to the audience was so fucking brilliant.
So good. I drink your milkshake.
Yeah. And he's like making the straw like this. I'm putting my straw there. Like that guy is incredible.
He's incredible.
Have you had him on the show?
No, I don't even know if he does things
here we
like
go.
this. Jesus Christ.
Like everything. Just everything.
Just beat that guy to death with a bowling pin.
And then every little piece of that was put together perfectly from the way that his face was contorted to the level of breathing that he was participating in, and then as he falls down, this is just so incredible.
What is it?
He's amazing.
I don't remember what he did. What did he do that he's beating him to death?
I can't remember either. I think he just... Who knows? I looked at the individual things that they were doing. It's like, he's fucking...
Oh, he's insane.
Yeah.
He's incredibly good. I think it would help. I think that's what's helping with Tom Cruise. I think being nutty helps. Yeah.
You have to be.
Yeah.
Or at least maybe, how much do
Have
you
it in
think-
you. Yeah, maybe you can keep it together most of the time. You know, there's you know there's people that like they keep it together most of the time, but if something goes sideways, there's like a little switch you see go off in their head, and you're like, oh, the other Brad is here now.
It's like
Crazy Brad is here.
I've known a few of those guys.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I've
of
known
course
a
you
few
do.
of those
We
guys.
both know guys like that. So like there's places that some people like they don't have that room in their house.
Yeah.
And this guy's like, I want to show you his room. And you open it with some fucking gigantic man cave with tanks in there and fucking garage lifts and pistols all over the wall. You're like, oh, I didn't know you had this room.
I like it when you discover people that are secret preppers, that they keep it way underneath their overt personality, and then you're like, I was shooting the shit with some guy a couple months ago, and he's like, so you doing prepping? I was like, oh yeah, I love it. It's awesome. It's like, you know, I don't play fantasy football. I like participate in these like, you know, preparation games or whatever, because it's just an interesting thought exercise to walk yourself through. And oh, by the way, if something happens, you also have kind of a group of contingencies that you can operate from. And he's like, okay. And it was like I passed the test because I was like, yeah, man, let's go. And then he started unpacking everything for me. He's like, oh yeah, I got a shipping container buried on my property.
Oh,
and I'm like,
wow.
yeah, that's cool. So do I. Yeah. I like that. I like it when I see that stuff.
Well, it is a good thing to know. You know, Mike Glover's great at that, which got him labeled a terrorist.
I think...
He's fucking explaining to people how to prepare in case things go sideways, and they're like, you are a problematic individual.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Well, I do know how that happens.
How did it
because
happen?
I think you have a bunch of people within the federal government that have a political agenda, and or they don't understand. They see any and everyone in the country that owns a firearm as some type of, you know, threat at some point. And they have to be, what I would say is, familiar with all aspects of America. They have to really understand, like, hey, there's a group of people out there that prepare for the worst, hope for the best. That's what they do. And they're really into it. And just because they're going to the range with a group of friends and they're preparing doesn't make them domestic terrorists. It just makes them
Prepared.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I think people should put in their heads. Does everybody remember? Let me speak to people that live in Los Angeles, because this is where it gets rare. Does everybody remember the lines outside the gun stores? Do you remember during the riots, there was lines outside the gun stores?
Yeah.
Listen to me, kids. Keep that energy. Keep that energy, because that didn't go away forever. That was just a couple of years ago. And the weirdness of life, the weirdness of the way the world works, some shit could pop off anywhere and everywhere. That's real. That's a real possibility. We all saw what just happened in Israel. It's a real possibility that some shit could pop off. And to bury your head in the sand and pretend that that's not possible, that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help anybody. And to prepare, why is preparing bad?
Do you think that's a? I think it's part of the cultural differences between people. Red and blue people. They're. What I would say is, the question is, there's people that are really individual. They want to take accountability, and there's other people that are like, I want to bury my head in the sand.
And I want the government to take care of it.
Yeah. You think that's part of it?
It's part of it, but there's also there's a weird denial of possibility that comes along with not wanting preparedness. And it's one of the rare times when I look at someone like Mike Glover being labeled a terrorist, it's one of the rare times I go, well, there might actually be a conspiracy to keep people weak.
Yeah.
They might want to look at people like that as resistance to authoritarianism, and they want to squash that. It's one of the rare times where I don't look at it objectively. I look at decisions like that, I go, oh, you like weak people. You only want weak people. You don't want people to challenge you once you get into power. You don't want people to say, hey, that's against the law, or hey, this is not the way we're supposed to be operating. You want people to just comply. And when no one's armed, people comply. And when everyone's armed, it's really hard to get people to comply, especially if they're kind of in agreement. If there's a large percentage of us that are in agreement, no, you can't listen to all my phone calls.
Right.
Like, you're just a person.
Yeah.
Whether you work for whatever fucking agency, if I'm a guy who works at a tire shop who doesn't do anything wrong and you want to listen to all my phone calls, what? You're just a person. What you should be, look, if you find a guy who you know is fucking wearing a suicide vest, is about to walk into a wall, you know something's going on, yeah, listen to that guy's phone. And if you got a chain of terrorists that you're studying and you need to listen to their phones, fuck yeah, listen to their phones. But if a guy just likes to can peaches and he owns a couple of 9mm and an AR, you want to listen to his phone? Hey man, fuck you.
Wait, did you see where this was last week, or maybe the week before last? They were talking about how they had TSA air marshals following people that were in D.C., not even at the Capitol, but they were in D.C. during January 6th. So they've just been following these people around the United States. Have you seen this?
What?
Yeah, they were saying they don't have the resources over the Thanksgiving travel period to staff the security needs from the airlines, because they had people that were air marshals, I believe.
Yeah.
And I'm scrolling through this, following people that were just in D.C. They weren't even implemented in anything. It was wild, dude.
What do they follow them for? What's the purpose?
I don't know. I think there's a level of intrusiveness in the government that is just, at some point, we have to say it's unacceptable. I think obviously this is a long podcast. We don't need to take down the temperature just yet, but I think, man, I don't quite understand why they want that level of surveillance activity around people that quite literally might have only been in D.C. during that time period.
I think the amount of pressure that they're putting on people to let them know that if there's ever anything like this again, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
Everyone's going to jail.
Yeah.
People that shouldn't go to jail are going to jail. If the cops let you in the door and they give you a tour, you're going to jail. We're going to call it a violent insurrection, and everyone's going to jail. And we're going to let you in. We're going to open up the barricades, and we're going to have federal agents in the audience encouraging you to go into the house. And then when we're under oath, we're going to say we can't answer whether or not federal agents were inciting people to go into the Capitol.
How ethically inappropriate do you think everything about that is?
It's so
dude,
bad.
it is so bad.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
If this was happening from the right, if this was Trump doing this, people would be losing their shit. You should be losing your shit if it happens in any political party. This is wild.
It's wild. I think, I don't know, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination going to fix it, but I think the Bill of Rights is so important. People understand and clearly differentiate. Okay, this is state, this is federal. Why are these things so important? Individual liberty comes with responsibility. And that's the other piece to this. It's like, you and I love freedom. To be fair, it's quite literally my favorite thing. Like,
It's
if I can have
awesome.
more, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you can never have too much. Because I'm going to take accountability. I'm going to be responsible for my actions. I'm not going to mess with other people. I'm not going to impede on their ability to pursue happiness because I'm responsible. But I think, that's me, that's you. I think there's a whole other side of the country where, hey, I don't want any responsibility for that. It's too much.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is so important because I think freedom without responsibility is what everyone's scared of.
Yeah.
When people talk about gun violence or they talk about crime or what you're talking about is freedom without responsibility. Even illegal immigration, it's freedom without responsibility. Mm-hmm. And accountability and responsibility and like having things that you have to do is what we need more of. That's what we need more of. You want to have more freedom? We definitely should have more freedom. But we should also have more people that are taking care of their life. They have their shit together.
Right.
So what we should be doing instead of trying to take away freedom, try giving people the tools that they need to be more accountable and to do better in their life and to get their fucking shit together. Like that should be the number one emphasis, not taking away your rights because some people can't handle it.
Right.
There's just...
Well, and that equals everything, right? So then it's like,
this episode is brought to you by 8 Sleep. The thing about sleeping on any old mattress is that there's no way to control the temperature, so you can get super hot at night. And if this holiday stays private, if you think that, learn more.
We'll say the highly motivated people that will live their life with virtue and courage and pursue all of what I would say is Western philosophic principles. I think we collectively can be trusted with that responsibility. But then you have that other piece that's saying, I don't want to have anything to do with that. I'd rather have a safe, secure existence without any accountability or responsibility.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. That's why and this isn't like, it's not meant to be like over complimentary, but I think that's so. This show and other people like you and Jocko and Cam and Jordan, whomever else that's kind of out there in the ecosystem, you guys are putting really good information out into the world. Saying like, I was to reference your podcast with Lex that you did maybe like a year ago. He was asking you straight up advice, like how do you make yourself better? How do you be a better person? You're answering, saying, hey, this is what worked for me. Well, you're obviously successful. You should be propagating that out into the country, into the world, having men and women, everybody else saying, fuck yeah, I'm going to take more accountability. I'm going to be more responsible for my life. I'm going to live radically free because that's fucking cool.
That is what people who live in cities don't like. Because if you're living in a city and you're in an apartment building and you're an urbanist, you figure yourself an urban. So you have a scarf when you're going to get your latte, and maybe you're getting an Uber or you're hopping in the subway. Like what you like is infrastructure.
Yeah.
You like everything to be set up for you. Oh, we have dinner at the Italian restaurant at 7:30. Great. You go over there, you eat food that someone else prepared. You get a glass of wine that someone else grew the grapes. You're not doing shit other than consuming. And this is what you enjoy. We're going to go to the play. We're going to go to the opera. We're going to go see a film. Oppenheimer's out. We're going to go home. Oh, this person is at the fucking comedy club. Let's go see that. Yeah. Let's go, let's constantly consume. And those people say, no, you need to get in shape and you need to start eating well. Like, whoa. I'm not interested in this at all. I want someone to wipe my ass. I have a seat on the toilet that sprays water up my ass, so I barely have to wipe anymore. It just hoses my ass down. I press buttons. I go to sleep. I take an Ambien. I go to sleep. I wake up in the morning. I go to Starbucks.
Yeah, it's almost a prescription for what I would say is, if you want to live within the safety and in the sanctuary of an urban environment where you've got everything mapped out to you. So you've been indoctrinated under a system of like bells and whistles that conformity means everything in academia, which is don't stick out, you know, like be on time, be best in class, make sure that you're hitting all your bells and whistles. When you move directly into that urban area where you're also working from 9 to 5, or whomever, you know, or whatever, it's like 60, 70 hours a week, but everything is laid out. It's very lockstep conformity all the way through. Dude, I have zero interest in doing that. Like that sounds like a prison to me, to be honest with you. That sounds like fucking prison.
Well, that's what's fascinating, is that these people that we're talking about that live in these urban environments that have jobs like that and are not interested in physical health and are going to restaurants and doing all the things, those people are the most fucked up.
Yeah.
They have the most health problems. They have the most mental health problems. I'm just guessing, but I know a lot of people that live in urban cities that are on SSRIs.
Right.
I know a lot of them. I would like, you know, like there's that 15% of the people that have 85 or below IQ.
Yeah.
What percentage of the people that live in cities that live like that are on antidepressants or some sort of psychoactive medication?
I read that too. I think it's about the same. I think it's almost equal. There's another like 10% of people out there. So when you think about the numbers, depending on how much overlap there is, there's 50 million people between, you know, below 85 and then that are what you would say is clinically depressed and or on some type of psychological drug, right? So
that's like 15% as well?
Yeah. I think it's almost equal.
Yeah, I wonder how much of those are confined to urban areas.
It's got to be higher.
I think it's almost a mass thing. It's called standard deviation.
Overlap.
You know what's interesting with depression is that no one takes into account how well you're doing.
Right.
Like, don't you feel better when you're doing well? Like when you have a good relationship, you got a good group of friends, why don't we think of that as medicine?
I think about it, like I've had a lot of time in the last, I would say, couple of years to try to like turn the pulse on this to figure out what it is that's like makes me happy or creates more endurance or energy or whatever it might be. And there's this eudaimonia. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
This principle? It's like this old Greek term that they would use to define happiness and fulfillment through hard work and accomplishing your goals and objectives. So it's essentially being happy in establishing very difficult criteria for yourself and then adhering to it. And it's older than the Stoics. And I realized, I was like, oh, that's kind of what makes me tick. Like, I love just grinding myself into moon dust. Like we were talking earlier, I was like, I'm running this whole machine in the red all the time, right? It's like I'm 5'7", 160 pounds, so it's like I gotta work to put out physical energy to even keep up, you know, in a special operations team or whatever previous profession that I've had. I've got to push this thing to the red to carry weight, to carry enough energy that I can accomplish a task. And then when you're floating just above maybe an average IQ, you also have to run this thing in the red. There's no like plus or minus 5%, dude. Like I have to get in and grind myself into moon dust every day, and I got to wring the sponge out of it. If I don't, well, I'm going to be just average because I'm average.
Yeah. That's a thing. Like, but you found ways to use the way you think about things and figure out a path in life. I think the difference between a guy like you and these people we're talking about is some people are just looking for a place to plug in. And I think that's where the despair comes from. I think the despair comes from not having a real purpose, like not having anything you really built or anything that you really feel proud of or anything that you really feel like your company, like Black Rifle, is creative as well as like really great coffee and cool people, and it's all veteran owned. It's like something to be proud of. It's like a real thing. Like you go there, people are smiling, it feels good. You've created this amazing business. Like that's a very different feeling than someone who's in some corporate structure and, you know, there's fucking all these weird rules and laws and social things you have to do in the office in order to get ahead.
Right.
And you have to, you know, learn how to play golf.
Yeah. Even if you don't want to play,
you got to play golf. You want to make deals, you got to play golf.
You got to hit the links on the weekend and like suck up to some other guy that, you know, pleated front docker wearing, like back slapping guy that you're like, oh man, like
maybe he's a cocksucker.
Yeah, maybe he's a complete dick.
Yeah, maybe he's gonna be a dick. And also, if he's a dick and he's good at golf and you suck at golf, oh my god, you're never gonna win any of these fucking conversations when it comes to business.
Or you really just want to do something else, like that I've got to go play golf every weekend.
Folk songs.
Yeah, like, I want to play acoustic guitar or be a or I used to like have that conversation with guys at the agency because there are people that just they weren't into the mission. They to your point, it's like my purpose, my mission, kind of the way that I've laid things out was I've always had to work for something bigger than just myself. Like I can't just be really selfish. It doesn't include my DNA. I have to look at something from a bigger purpose, look at the mission, the goals and objectives, be somewhat altruistic, and then just fucking dive in. Then you can be like, you can be selfless in some of what you're doing, and you can behave as a cog in the wheel, which I think is actually a really important piece to is how many people have ever worked with just a number in a machine.
Right, you don't feel valuable.
No, you don't. And creating value with a team with a bigger purpose, I think that's what guys in the military and guys from my background, as they transition out, they go through what I would say is an existential crisis, because their life has meaning, their essence is clearly defined, they're striving to accomplish a big goal and objective that takes complete intellectual and physical commitment. And when they get out, they're like, now we have all this freedom, 360 degrees. Well, you have to lay your own life out. You have to redefine your purpose and then drive in as deep as you can. I think they go through a significant existential crisis.
Well, that happens to guys that get out of prison, too.
Yeah.
Guys that get out of prison, a lot of them want to get arrested to go back because they're more comfortable in jail.
Right.
They don't like the freedom. They don't like this new life. All their friends are still locked up. Their social connections are locked up out in the street. They're a pariah. They're an ex-con. You know?
And some of those things are like transitioning into the professional environment, especially from the team room. Like I was in a team room my entire life, and you know me better than most, which is not politically correct. I couldn't build an ecosystem, nor could I could ever survive in the corporate environment because my mind doesn't work like that. Like I have the diplomacy of a sledgehammer sometimes, and it's not.
All units in the area, we have an urgent situation in Westbrook.
For a mind like yours. The thing is, when you're a kid, they tell you there's not.
Right?
When I was a kid, man, I was fucking absolutely convinced I was a loser.
Really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Fuck up in school. Big fuck up in school. You know, always getting kicked out of classes for making fun of things. Never had any work ethic at all. The only time I worked is when if I needed money to buy a car or something like that, I'd get a job and I'd do that. But I was in hell thinking, imagine having to do this for life. I had a bunch of, my dad was an architect, so I had a bunch of construction jobs growing up. And those fucking taught me that I don't want to do that.
Right.
I had a whole summer I worked with my friend Jimmy Wallace. I carried cement bags and pressure-treated lumber all summer. It was I only worked there for a couple months.
Suspect's vehicle has been located. Details have been sent.
I was 19, and I remember really clearly going, I am never going to be able to do this, because I would leave at the end of the day. I was toast. I was done, man. I'd go to the gym to work out. I had nothing. I was just so tired. There was not, and I realized, okay, I can't do this. I admire people who can do it, who just show up for work every day. I feel like I'm in hell. I got to find a thing. But I got lucky that there's things. And you got lucky that there's things. But in school, they don't tell you that there's things. They don't say, hey, Joe, I see how you can't pay attention in class. You're always cracking jokes. Like, maybe you should be a comedian. Like, no. Never.
They're like, you're going to fail.
Yeah, you're a fucking loser. You're a loser. And until I started being good at stuff, I didn't realize that I could. Maybe I wasn't a loser.
Yeah.
Because when I started doing martial arts, that was the first time I was like, oh, I can apply myself to things. I can actually be really good at stuff. It's just a matter of I didn't find a thing that was interesting to me until this.
Yeah, it's very similar. Like you and I had very, very similar backgrounds. Like my dad he was a logger, so he was up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning every day. Like I saw this dude just work his entire life, and he was so committed and so disciplined. Like, I never saw my dad in I always saw him with a lunchbox. He worked in the woods my entire life. But like, I wasn't good at shit, which is also good. Like, I like to fuck around with my buddies, and I like to do interesting things, I guess, for that. Like try to jump motorcycles or whatever kind of random shit you'd come up with. But as I got into the military, I was like, oh, I'm good at this. Like, I'm really good at this for some reason. I can run fast, I can shoot well. I can put together semi-coherent sentences. So, shit, I can be good at this. And this is something I can, steal the phrase, accelerate your life or whatever. I can accelerate my life. And it was fun, dude. I could jump out of planes and learn different languages and spend most of my life out of the country, but it was the same kind of evolution. It's like I found this thing that I was really good at, I loved it, and I could just go chips in on it, and it built layers of confidence and allowed me to just build the confidence to say, well, you know what, if I was good at this, I could probably apply this to other things in life.
Yeah.
And it just compounds. Like the way I built Black Rifle, and why I did was like, my mission statement when I transitioned out was to transition out of government service and live a happy and fulfilling life. That was it. It didn't have anything to do with money or goals or any of those things. It was, how do I define happiness? How do I define fulfillment? And then as we grew the company, after about the first year, it became really evident that I could not only do something, because I had this beautiful family that I loved, like my kids and my wife, and they're giving me so much power and endurance. What if I built this really cool company where you could leave the family that you love and go to work in a company that you love, and then it would become a flywheel. It would just get faster and faster and faster in your life and create more happiness, more fulfillment. What if I could scale that and give that to other people? And so far, I mean, it's fucking worked. Like I feel so happy, and I feel so like I'm so grateful. Like I'm just so grateful for the things that I've been able to do over the last 10 years. And I tell this to people all the time. Where I go to my refrigerator, pull milk out for my kids. There's not a morning or a day that doesn't go by where I don't thank my customers for they've given me this opportunity. Right? They've given me this opportunity to make crazy art and amazing coffee and build this culture of people that I love. Fuck, that is cool, man. And it's
very cool.
It's them. They did it. They did it for me. I just kind of like have facilitated it.
But it was the perfect thing for you to plug into.
Yeah.
And to apply your passion into a new direction. What's interesting too about Black Rifle, and by the way, thank you for the cup. This is how thoughtful he is. It's white on the inside, so I can see how dark the coffee is.
Yeah.
That's a real coffee nerd, folks.
Yeah, it's built perfectly from, and I won't like, everybody will gloss over and start like tuning out, but it's 1:16 ratio brew method from 30 grams of coffee in and 480 grams yielded. But then you can see it. How dark is it? How light is it? You can kind of. I built it for the perfect mug based on how many fingers can you get in through the handle, What's the weight of it? I also build things that if you have to hit somebody in the fucking face with it, they're not.
It's got some.
It's got some heft. Yeah.
These little bitches will break easy.
Yeah.
This got a lot more heft to it.
It's got a heavy bottom in it, so there's a little bit of thought that
you
went
can fuck
into that.
someone up with that, especially if you get your hand around it this
Right.
way.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it.
Right.
I wouldn't hold on to the handle. I'm not trusting this handle. I put my fingers through the handle. I'm looking at this end right here as being the most durable spot to hit somebody with.
It's got a good edge.
I'm looking at. Yeah, you don't hit him with up here.
No.
You get him with this. This is what
just
I'm looking at. A nice angle.
See?
Yeah. I like what you're saying.
Yeah.
This is a good 3-finger handle too. It's just perfect for my fat fingers. It's right in there. I got a pinky in the bottom to brace. I like it.
See? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of thought that went into it.
Yeah. The coffee thought is nuts, man. When I went to your place and I saw your lab, I was like, this is so preposterous.
It is.
You are such a nerd. The way you measure the exact amount of coffee and you're experimenting with different temperatures by like 2 and 3 degrees.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. But you can tell when you make coffee in coffee camp, in hunting camp rather, like it was the most spoiled time ever. Like we get like the most insane coffee, and it was hilarious. Like we ran out of coffee filters, and someone, was it Cody? I think Cody said, "Oh, we can use a paper towel." You just turned them. We're not using a fucking paper towel.
Yeah, I got angry.
He did get angry
because he was serious. I was like, "You can't. Are you serious? No, we're not doing that. Like, I'll go to the store. I'll get filters, but
these
we're not
guys
doing
are fucking cowboys. They would
Yeah.
throw some fucking coffee beans and throw a rock into a fucking thing and pour hot water on it.
They're just like, yeah, this is whatever.
These guys are animals.
Yeah, they're amazing guys.
They're amazing guys. They're
He's
amazing,
fucking
hardworking
awesome.
dudes.
Yeah.
I love those guys. I look forward to going there every year.
Dude,
We have so much fun together too. That's such a fun week.
I had so much fun this year. Like for the people listening, I guess it's like I got to watch you do like 30 stocks.
Yeah, it's
And-
there's a lot of stalking and blown stalks and missed shots and missed opportunities and you get winded. And
Yeah,
elk hunting is amazing, dude.
that
It's amazing.
that bull that you killed, Parafor, that thing was so cool to watch. 'Cause I watched the entire thing, and I'll recite it from my position because I couldn't really see you very well because you'd moved off, and I'm looking at him from across. I was on one spur, you were on the other. There's a little valley in between us, but we were probably, I don't know, 1,000 yards away. And I'm watching you through my binos, trying to figure out what you're doing, because I could see the bull. And then he got up, and I couldn't tell if you were winded or not. But then all I heard, like, I saw him tear ass up the hill and then tumble down. He was dead in 5 seconds.
Really
like
quick.
3.5, 5 seconds at the most. And I heard it from across the canyon. You yelled so loud that we started laughing because you're like, yeah, and it echoed all the way down through the canyon. I was like, well, bull down, let's go.
Yeah, I gave a Ric Flair.
Yeah.
I gave a giant woo. Yeah, they're the fucking most interesting animal to me. I mean, I've deer hunted, I've bear hunted, I've hunted axis deer, I've hunted a lot of different animals, but elk to me are like the most majestic. They're the coolest looking.
Yeah.
They're fucking smart as shit. When they smell you, their senses are so good. They're always tuned in to what the fuck is going on, and the only time you catch them slipping is when they're hungry, they're tired, or they want to fuck.
Yeah.
And we caught him when he was tired. Ready to take a nap. I was like, okay, man, you just fucked up. And I creeped in with my socks on. I creeped in for half an hour.
2 steps
I
back.
was moving so slow because his head was kind of turned sideways. And I could never tell if he was looking at me. So I had to every time you turn away, I'd get a couple of slow steps, and I'd have to stop. And then I'd have to wonder. I wonder if he remembers what he saw when he turned before, and if that fucking tree is closer. Wonder if he's gonna perk up. It's so exciting. Your fucking heart's pounding, and I'm doing all these breathing exercises to slow my heart rate down. Whew. So much fun, man.
So much fun.
And then I'm always, whenever it gets dark around that spot, I'm always wondering about cats.
Yeah.
Because there's so many cats there. I'm always wondering, what if there's an old one who can't really really catch deer anymore.
He's like, that thing looks good.
That thing looks slow as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that origin camouflage makes you look maybe like caramel or something.
Yeah, he
to
smells
a
like
cougar.
coffee and sugar.
Yeah, he's like jacked up on RTDs and like.
Yeah, like I worry about cats.
You do?
Yeah, but once I saw one in Utah, I was with my friend Colton, and we were maybe 30 yards away. He stops the truck and he goes, "Look at that cat." He goes, "Look at that fucking lion under the tree." And I look and I see his eyes glowing. And I'm like, oh my God, he's huge. And then I get the binos out. So I'm inside the truck and I'm looking in his fucking face. Like right. I mean, it was terrifying. He was so big. He had these massive forearms, dude. Just jacked forearms. And this big old pumpkin head. I mean, it was a big male cat. And I was like, oh, I'd never seen one that big. I'd seen little ones before. I saw like one that looked like it was about like 60 pounds, and the other one was pretty much the same size. Those are the only two cats I've ever seen before. And I saw them like very briefly.
Right.
This motherfucker was just sitting under a tree at dusk with a big fucking head. I see him! And I was like, just the feeling of helplessness was overwhelming. I was like, if that thing decided to jump me, it's over.
You're done.
There's not a thing you're gonna be able to do. It's so much fun.
Yeah. You guys have cats?
Not anymore. No, but I've had cats for many years. And cats kill so much shit. They kill so much shit.
Hey, it's always a debate. Like, my wife and I have gone back and forth on like, do we get a cat? Do we not get a cat? And there's some, they carry some parasite, I guess.
Toxoplasmosis.
Like, yeah.
Mostly the wild cats get it.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's from like wild.
It's from rats.
Oh.
This is
okay.
It is a wild parasite. And there's a guy named Robert Sapolsky out of is that Stanford? I think it's out of Stanford. Psychologist, brilliant guy. He's done a lot of work on toxoplasmosis, and toxoplasmosis is the reason why they tell people not to touch women that are pregnant, not to touch their cat's litter box, because it can really fuck the kid up.
Huh.
And it can really fuck you up too.
Right.
But what it does with people is wild. What it does with people is it makes them more reckless, and a disproportionate number of motorcycle victims have tested positive for toxoplasmosis. Some countries, at one point in time, France was as high as 50% of the population was infected by it.
What?
Yeah, it is a wild parasite that changes the way you think. And one of the things it does is parasites are so fascinating because they literally can hijack another body and get it to do different things. So they get inside a rat. The rat gets infected with toxoplasmosis, and it rewires the rat's sexual reward system. The rat now becomes sexually aroused by the smell of cat urine. It also completely removes any fear that the rat would have of cats. So the rat goes towards the cat kills the rat and eats the rat. The only way the parasite can reproduce is inside the cat's gut. So the cat, which is seemingly unaffected by this parasite, is just making it inside of its body. And then when it gets out, it affects all the creatures around it. It probably does affect cats too, but cats are so crazy anyway. How would you know? Just makes them slightly crazier. But with people, it makes them wilder. It makes them more reckless.
Is that why you don't have cats?
No, I probably have it. I probably have toxo. I've had feral cats. I had a feral cat for a while. He was nuts. He was so nuts that when I had to fix him, he was like, I guess he was like, when I got him, a friend of mine had these cats under her apartment. Her and her boyfriend captured these cats, these little kittens, and she goes, you want a kitten? And I had a cat already. I'm like, oh, get that cat already. So I get this fucking cat, and the moment I see it, it's a tiny little thing. It's a tiny thing. It's hissing at you like it's a demon. And I pick it up, and it instantly starts purring loud, like a foster kid who's finally been hugged.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just purring. And I was like, oh, this poor little dude. So to get accustomed to it, I had to stay in one of the bedrooms in the hospital, just with him. So I brought some books in there. I brought his litter box, and I brought cat food, and I just hung out with the cat for like days in this room. And I had to do it that way because every time I would leave and I'd come back, I'd literally climb the walls to just hissing and jumping and clawing at the drapes. It was wild. And then I would corner him and I'd touch him and he would start purring. And then I'd pick him up and I'd start petting him. And then I'd just sit there like, reading a book. And I did it for days to get this cat comfortable with me. And it worked. Yeah. I was the only one he was comfortable with, though. Anybody else who came over the house, you could not pick him up. You try to pick him up, he would fuck you up. Like, he'd bite you, he'd claw at you. But with me, he was cool. It was weird. But he was only cool, like, I had to, like, slowly approach him. His name was Jack Dempsey, because Jack Dempsey was a hobo. So I thought it was a good name for him. Yeah. So I pet him, and then he'd immediately start purring. And I'm like, it's okay. This is you and me, buddy. We're good. So I had to get him fixed. And he must have known that my intentions were different, than before. And so he wouldn't let me pick him up. And I had to get him into a laundry hamper. That was the only way I was going to be able to carry him. So I cornered him in the bathroom, and he's hissing, he's jumping from the tub to the sink, and I'm like, dude, calm the fuck down. It's just me. Calm down. So then I get a blanket, and I throw the blanket over him, and I wrestle him, and I stuff him into this fucking hamper. And I bring him to this guy, Dr. Craig, who's an amazing guy. He wound up dying later in a car accident. It was one of the saddest fucking things. He was the coolest vet ever. He was the coolest. And I brought him in, and I go, hey, man, I don't even know who he is. But he's spraying my house now. He needs to get fixed. But he's wild. And he's like, how wild? I go, look how I have him. I got him in a hamper. You see the fucking hamper? It's like bouncing around. So they had to hold this cat down somehow or another and anesthetize him, put him out, and then they had to fix him. And then brought him back, and he was cool.
He was fine.
Yeah, he was cool with me. Yeah. He was always cool with me. Like, we got over whatever that was that I fucking kidnapped him. We got over it, and he would let me pick him up again. But only me. Like, no, my friends, no one, even people that were over the house all the time, no one could pet him.
That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I probably got toxo from that cat, if I had to guess.
That's one of the reasons why we haven't had him. Like, because I'm
they are ruthless little murderers.
Yeah.
Cats kill billions of birds every year. B-I in America.
Yeah.
Billions.
They're billions.
That is so nuts. What is the actual number, Jamie? Because it's so crazy. You see the number of small mammals and birds that house cats.
I look at
just house cats kill.
I look at my dogs. I'm like, dude, if I leave for like 45 minutes, I don't know if you guys are gonna make it. So they're just like fluffy, they live on the couch basically. There's like no wolf left in them.
So
this episode is brought to you by Goldco. The Fed has just declared war on Americans. They want to be a cashless society using it. Learn more.
So here's the number.
20.
What? 20.7 billion small mammals. The Journal of Nature Communications, cats kill between 1.4 billion and 3.7 billion birds, and between 6.9 billion and 20.7 billion small mammals, such as meadow voles and chipmunks. So that's 20 billion mammals and somewhere between 1.4 billion and 3.7 billion birds.
That's crazy.
That's
crazy.
They're fucking murderers.
Like, that's like mad respect there, because like these things are living in our house.
Oh my God. This one says between 1.3 and 4 billion birds, and between 6.3 and 22.3 billion mammals. So it's probably going up every year because there's more cats every year because they keep fucking. And the wild ones are the, wild cats. They're fucking unbelievable murderers.
That's fucking wild.
Look at this. Researchers get that a single cat may kill between 100 and 200 mammals annually. Just murders.
Yeah. I could have a barn cat. Like, that'd be cool.
Well, they will definitely keep rats away.
Yeah.
That is, they have a function on farms. They're great.
100%.
They're great. They're great at doing that. If you want to have a wild cat, that's the place to have them. They fucking keep everything away. There's this hunting lease that my friend Tyler from Archery Country has. And we went there, and there's this cool fucking wild cat that hangs out there. But he's like domesticated. Like he comes up to you and rubs up against you and like, what's up, little buddy? And that cat just kills everything. All he does is, I don't think anybody feeds him. I think he just wanders around that ranch, killing everything he needs to eat.
That's a great life.
It's a great life for him. He's so happy. Like that cat, because he loves people. Like he's not a wild cat in a sense that he's not domesticated. Because he does come right up to you, and rubs up against you, and you pat him and he rubs over, and he rubs his belly. He's not worried about people at all. Everybody treats him really nice. So he's like a sweet, sweet cat.
Right.
But no one's feeding him. He's just a little murderer. Just running around eating rats and mice and fucking birds. And
I've got a whole new respect for him. Reading that, I had no context of the billions of animals that are small rodents and shit that they're murdering every year. That's amazing.
It is amazing, but it's also kind of crazy that they also seem content to just chill in an apartment. Mm-hmm. Like cats don't seem to have a problem being in an apartment.
I went out to Ryan Holiday's bookstore yesterday.
Oh. Okay.
And just cruised around in there because it's like 20 minutes outside of town, and he's got 2 cats cruising around in there, just like
hanging out in the bookstore.
Yeah, hanging out in the bookstore and like laying on boxes and running around. It's like, it's fucking cool, man.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I love cats. It's just like my kids are allergic to them. It's a real problem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And my wife's allergic to them too. But I prefer dogs. But my dog is an amazing dog, but he's dumb as shit too.
Well,
and
that's
so
the
I
golden...
just got him back from the hospital. I'm going to send this to you, Jamie, so you can see these pictures. I just got him back. So we came home the other night, and Marshall had eaten chicken food that was outside on gravel, but he didn't bother to differentiate between the gravel and the chicken food. So he ate about 2 pounds of gravel.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating.
2 pounds of gravel.
It was pounds of gravel. There was so much gravel that he ate that he threw up. That's a pile of gravel that he threw up. That's one of 7 piles of gravel. Show the other picture that I sent you. That's my foot for reference. I just sent you another one. That one. So that we found.
Oh my gosh.
That's all gravel that he threw up. So that's once he threw up like six times in the house, and then the 7th time, it looks like he threw up several different times there.
Right.
So I took him to the emergency vet, and they do an x-ray, and he still has gravel in his stomach and gravel in his colon. And they're not as concerned about the gravel in his colon, but they were concerned about the gravel in his stomach. So I had to take him to a hospital where he stayed overnight for 2 days, and they gave him liquid therapy. They put an IV to him, and they monitored him. And they made sure that he was okay. And he eventually shit out all the gravel, and they didn't have to do surgery, but there was a concern that there could be an obstruction. But they finally let him out today, and he's fine. But, like, that's the kind of shit you have to deal with if you have pets. He ate gravel. He ate 2 pounds of gravel.
My Golden's name is Potato. And I rebranded him because his first name was Maximus. And we were driving down the road one day. I was like, this dog needs a naming rebrand because his fucking brain is like a potato. And then that was it. Like his name is Potato.
Does he have balls? Yeah,
no, he was we adopted him. He was like 2 years old when we got him. I've got a golden doodle and a golden. So they're just, one's beans, one's potato. The other one's Dr. Beans. Potato, so.
I've met Dr. Beans.
Yeah, Dr. Beans is the best. He's a
cool dog.
Yeah, he's the chillest of the chill.
I'm not like a cat hater, but I absolutely prefer dogs. There's a thing, I have a relationship with my dog. It's like my friend. Yeah, home, talk to him. He kind of knows what I'm saying. You know, like there's little things that we do, like you want to get the ball. Pops up like, let's fucking go. These videos of me with him with the ball. I've never been more excited in my life about anything, maybe other than elk hunting.
Right.
This dog is fucking bouncing around. He's going, and every day I'm like, is he gonna be bored? We can do this ball thing every day. There's not a fucking day where he's bored. He's like, the ball's out. Holy shit, we're gonna do the ball. It's like he's so simple.
But if you had a guy come in and you're like, you want to get the elk? You want to get the elk, Joe? You'd probably be the same way. You'd be like, fuck yeah.
No, the thing is, with elk hunting, the only way it's really exciting is if it's hard.
Yeah.
Like, that's what was so exciting about that hunt that you watched from a distance. Was like, I had to like creep in on this fucking dude and hope the wind didn't shift. I had to creep in on this dude and hope that he didn't catch me moving. I had to hope that there was a window where I could draw, where he wasn't going to be, because once he gets up, what if he's getting up facing me and I can't draw? And I'm trying to figure out when do I draw. There's a lot going on. And I'm like, I know I ranged him at 50, but I took 2 steps. what is this right here? I mean, is he at 48? Is he at 47? Like, where do I aim? There's so much going on that's when it's successful. That's what's so exciting. It's hard to do. The ball fucking he knows how bad going every day.
Yeah.
But he's so excited.
It's like instant gratification.
Where the ball's going?
Did you shoot that bow yesterday?
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
It's smoother. It's better.
Smoother?
Yeah, they made a few significant changes. There's a new horse bow that just came out. What are they calling it? Save your time. Keep hammering edition. I think it's the VXM 30.
Did you go up? Are you still at 80 or did you go up?
I have two bows. I have an 80 and a 90.
Okay.
Yeah, so one's at an 81 or 82, and the other one's at 90.
Can you feel the difference?
Yeah, you feel when you pull them
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
What about in accuracy?
Well, they're both super, super accurate. The thing is, you just can't shoot as many arrows in a day with a 90-pound bow. I figured that out a long time ago, which is why I got it at 80. I have a 60 at the studio, which is like a kid's bow. So
Right.
it's amazing. You can draw it back just like so easy. And I just use that one for practicing my form and because it's just nice to have a bow at the studio. And then there's the 80 that I shot Elon Musk's a Cybertruck with. They just happen to be laying around here too. That thing just bounced right off of it.
That was actually one of the fucking coolest videos.
Pretty
I've seen
cool.
in
He
a
let me
long
shoot
time.
his truck
Yeah.
with a bow.
He's like, oh yeah, you want to go shoot it? Let's shoot it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's got a little scratch on it now forever. The tiniest scratch too.
Right.
And it's a fucking heavy ass arrow from an 80-pound bow, and it didn't do shit to that door.
Just blew it up. Blew up the arrow.
But the new Hoyts, one of the things about bows for people who don't know, unlike firearms, which are essentially like if you have a SIG P365, that's what that gun is. Like if you got that gun 5 years ago, like they made a comp version of the 365, so they put compensation in the barrel, just makes it a little better, a little easier to shoot. But they make essentially the same kind of gun with small improvements for years and years. Like if you buy a 5-year-old gun, it's still a top-of-the-line gun, right? Bows, somehow or another, they through engineering and these fucking wizards, they make them better incrementally every year. They really do. Like I noticed the difference between last year's bow and the year before. Like the moment I shot, I was like, wow, this is smoother. And one day, just for
I
fuck
need
of
you
it,
to
I
pay a
picked
visit
up
to a tiger
previous year's
garden
bow,
and retrieve something
I was
for me.
noticing a difference. I was like, oh, this
I know
doesn't
you're
feel as
up to
good.
the task.
The draw cycle's
I am
not as good. The
attaching
release
more
doesn't feel as smooth,
information.
but it was better than the year before.
Carefully.
Right.
And so last year's bow was like, this is how they're gonna top this. This bow is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so accurate. It's so smooth. Boom, they did it. They topped it. They keep making them better. They're more efficient. They pull back smoother. They're more dead in the hand. This bow feels like nothing when it goes
Really?
off. Nothing. It goes off. There's like zero vibration. It's incredible. Whatever they're doing in terms of like there's a particular design of their riser that the vibration, even if it goes through the bow on the shot, almost none of it is going through your hand.
Right.
It's incredibly like dead in the hand, which leads you to be more accurate. Everything is about accuracy and efficiency and smoothness and comfort.
Have you transitioned over to the that stand clicker yet? Have you tried that thing?
I do like that, but I keep going back to the knock to it because
Yeah.
the thing about the stand clicker is this is your dog.
Yes.
This is it makes your draw length 1/4 inch longer because it's 1/4 inch longer than the head of the knock to it, which I'm so accustomed to.
Yeah.
So all my anchor points are slightly different. So with the stand, the string is just a 1/4 inch further forward. And there's something about that maybe I have to get used to. Maybe if I pull harder on the wall, I maintain the same stability. Or maybe if I extend my arm out a little bit more, I maintain the same stability. I'd have to transition and try it. Because I've been using Dudley's archery releases for so long. Like between the Too Smooth, the Hinge, which I really like.
All
and then
units,
his
we
other
have a
one, the,
situation in
Knock To It, which is
Westbrook.
the thumb
Please
button,
respond.
I really like.
Copy,
I'm just so
dispatch.
used to those.
I swear to Christ.
I keep going
if it's
back.
Uridine again.
I've tried, stand clicker, the stand non-clicker, I've had the hinge. I've had a bunch of these. And I keep going back. I'm the most accurate. I think it's just because I've got so many reps. It feels so natural. And now that I've got the thing dialed to like super hot.
Hot sauce.
Yeah, it's hot sauce. You breathe on it wrong and it goes off.
You got to be careful with those.
Yeah.
You got to always check them because I've had it when those are really hot with Carter releases. Well, they'll go off just based on the
Code zero.
tension that's on
I
the
repeat,
string.
code 0 in this area. All units
So
resume
I
normal
always,
duties.
wherever I like it, I crank it a little bit stiffer now.
Just a little
Just
bit.
a little
Just a little bit.
I want it so I could put my thumb on it and know that the slightest amount of back pressure, that motherfucker goes off. Just the slightest amount. So when I get that, then I go through my shot process. I don't have any concerns about it going off. It's just everything's there. Let's fucking go. It's off. And I feel like that to me is the most accurate. And there's a lot of different schools. A lot of people like it very heavy. And what they do is they hook the button in here, in the crook of their thumb, and then they pinch their finger around it. And they can get a good grip, and then they're just all pulling with their back muscles, and that makes it go off. And you can do that too. But I think that's because they want an absolute surprise shot. Because they're concerned they're gonna punch the trigger in that moment. But I think the real thing is about controlling that moment. The real thing is about staying cool in that moment. And that's the hardest part of it. And I think the less anxiety you have about your release, the better. I know that motherfucker's going off if I want it to. But I also know how to do the shot process correctly. So that's my little, what have I've learned is that I like it hot.
Yeah.
I like that bitch hot.
Yeah. That's where I'm at, because I had mine set way too tight, and I would be, essentially be pulling and pressing on the release slow, like looking at it kind of like a firearm trigger, saying like slow pressure, build the pressure, straight back, like no deviation, and I would go through this entire shot process from the rifle that I was incorporating into the bow. But I'm taking
First time I
too
hear
much
casino
time
having
from the
entrance
back end,
fees.
really building.
Don't agree with
into
it?
my thumb
Then
release
fuck off.
versus
No one's
when you're
forcing
ready
ya.
and everything's dialed.
Of course it
Your
is.
ring overlap, your level's good, everything's set. It's time to go.
Have fun.
It's time to go.
Yeah.
You can't be building to the shot. Yeah, hot sauce is like, that is the way to go.
Yeah, the way to go is hot sauce with a good shot process. But you have to have a controlled shot process. Like in my mind, I have like a whole process, that Joel Turner process that I put myself through. So it's really just all about not hammering the trigger over anxiety. It's really all just about staying calm and letting it happen and knowing exactly what you're doing.
Do you concentrate on breathing through your nose and trying to get more oxygen as you're going through your thought process, or do you just open your mouth?
I concentrate on breathing through my nose when I'm calming myself down as I'm moving towards the shot. Like when in that particular moment, like my heart was pounding as I was closing the gap because I was like, I think I'm gonna get this motherfucker. And it's exciting. Like stalking on a bedded elk is very exciting. Because that's you got to get. I had to get within 50 yards because there was a log in front of me. There was just like this down tree, and the only gap was I had to go up above him in 50 yards. And when I'm doing this, as I'm like creeping in there, there's so much anticipation that your heart's just fucking pounding, and that's what I'm doing with breathing exercises. But once I get there, I'm telling myself that I'm calm. Once I'm there, I'm not allowing myself to get ramped up again. Once I'm in position. So once I'm in position, it's just task oriented. It's just that I'm just completely locked in on his vitals and my shot process. That's all I'm thinking about. And what I like about hot sauce is when I get to that spot and I'm at full draw, there's no other things to think about. I got that pin on his vitals, my bubbles leveled, everything feels good. Pow, whack, and then you can have fun. Then you can go back to just being a normal human.
Right.
But in that moment, for me, I have to be task oriented. If I'm thinking about it, I'm not thinking, I hope I don't miss. None of that shit. I'm not letting any of that in. All I'm thinking is task. I have a task, very clear task. And this is there's going to be weird decisions that I'm going to have to make because who knows what he's going to do when he gets up. Is he going to go left? Is he going to go right? What if that asshole steps behind the tree and now I'm fucked again? I have no shot. If he just stepped and went left, which they do all the time, now I'm behind that log again. I'm fucked.
Do you have any anxiety or that same type of build where your heart starts to increase as you're stepping on stage at any stage?
No.
No, you have none of that.
No, I had that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the beginning, there was full panic.
But
you
no,
know, like,
you have zero now.
No, now it's just exciting. Now it's like, now I have a whole thing I do where I get myself ramped up. I jump around, I stretch before I go. Occasionally I have a little cocktail. But the whole idea is just get loose. Which is the best thing about comedy is you're doing it with a bunch of other people that are doing comedy. It's almost like you're all going on stalks together. So we're all hanging out in the green room talking shit, and we're all going on the same show. So we're having fun, and it's like everybody's lively.
Right.
So you think you just don't want to go on stage cold. You would never want to go on stage. You would never want to wake up like alarm clock. Get up, ladies and gentlemen, Evan Hafer. You'd be like, it would be terrible. It would take a while for you to warm up. It would take a while for you to get into the groove. You know, so you gotta be at entertainment groove as you step on stage. So there's like anticipation, but there's nothing like the anxiety of elk hunting. Nothing's even close.
It has that strange effect because I don't get hardly any anxiety ever for anything, really, like unless I'm in a car wreck or something, right, where I'm not trying to do that. But elk hunting, for some reason, you get in front of this animal and you get ramped up, and I'm always talking to myself like, what the fuck? Like, it's not like the swords on this thing's head are going to come after you.
Right.
Like, why are you doing this? Right? Like, why is your body doing what it's doing right now? So I have to have this whole process of like calm myself down, breathe through my nose, you know, and then once I get into the shot, it's fine. But building into that shot, for some reason, you start going, I need to wear a heart monitor and just watch to see how high that thing gets as you're moving in on a stock on the animal. Because as you're building into that moment, there's that time before you can settle into that position where you're questioning, like, why am I so ramped up right now? You don't exactly know why, so then you have to dial everything back, pull everything back into perspective, focus on what you're doing, and then once you have a task, and the task is there, then it seems to just settle down and get right back into the moment.
Yeah, once you have the task, once it's in front of you, it's moving into position. But sometimes I can stop it. When I was in Utah, we were on this one ridge, and on this other ridge was this big bull that was running these cows. He was the king of the mountain. You could see by his body, this is an old bull. And he's running these cows, but he's way over. Right. He's you got to go down and all the way up. He's way too far for us to, and we're out in the open. There's no way you're going to plant a stalk on this bull in the position that he's at, especially with the way the thermals are all going up. So we start moving down this canyon, and as we're moving down this canyon, the bull just randomly decides to run his cows down into the bottom, and we're realizing, oh shit, this can happen. And so as that's happening, I stop myself from getting ramped up, completely stopped. I just recognized it was possibly coming because I see him making his way down this ridge,
right,
and he's going right to where we're going, and we know that there's a pond down there. So the pond is where he's going. He's going to go to get a drink, and he's going to come right down through this bottom, and that's where he's going to be at. And I stayed calm the entire time. I never let myself ramp up. I never got ramped up. I mean, I was probably above normal heart rate, but I was pretty fucking calm. And then he came right out to 62 yards. It was perfect. He was right out there. It was perfect. Everything went, drew back, whacked him, watched him go 30 yards and pile up. And it was watching the whole thing play. And at the end of it, then I was like, that was pretty calm. I stayed pretty calm in that one. Like, for whatever reason, I never got I stopped it as it was happening.
Yeah, I would imagine the more reps you get in,
but the next one was like a month later. And I was super ramped up.
Huh.
Because I think it was the stalk part of it. The creeping in is like more sneaky than anything. This was like an ambush.
Right.
You know? There's something about like creeping in on them.
Yeah, there's the momentum. Yeah. You're letting the drama build to the story. Okay, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Do you think Have you talked about this with Cam? Does he still get ramped up at all?
He's pretty calm.
His resting heart rate has to be like 3.
Yeah. I think that certainly helps. I think the amount of cardio that you do has an effect on how you can maintain your heart rate. It just must.
It has to.
And if someone has like a low resting heart rate, I would just imagine they'd have more control on bringing their heart down. It just makes sense. Totally makes sense, you know? And he's just he's done it so much, man, that he's like, he's a killer. He knows how to stay calm under pressure.
And those like 1 yard kills.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was insane.
Like that was crazy. And
Dude.
1 yard, like a yard and a half or whatever he was from that thing.
It was as far as you are to me.
Man, that's nuts.
Nuts.
Like, that guy, I went out and did his podcast a couple months ago. We had so much fun. He's such a fantastic human. Very infrequently do you just bump into people. You're like, that guy's salt of the earth.
Yeah.
He's exactly like he's reached, and then he's gone way above expectation as far as the type of person he is. Like, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's an amazing person. So this dude named Schaefer, he made a rap song about Cam, and we played it on the podcast the other day. It's number 8 in the hip hop charts now.
Seriously?
In the all-around hip hop charts, and it was I think it's number 6 now, and it was number like 90 in all songs. It's a rap song about a bow hunter, and it's number 6 in the hip hop charts.
Yeah, because that makes sense.
Yeah, just because we talked about it. It's bonkers. It's a good song though. The guy's good. Kid's fucking talented.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, but it's just nuts. I have to piss so bad. Let's piss. We'll come back.
All right.
But yeah, it's all random shit.
How's the carnivore guy?
Oh, he was great.
Yeah.
He was great. He's still alive. Crazy.
Yeah.
Guy's eating only meat. 7 years.
Fucking wild. It's wild.
Thriving.
Are you still doing only meat?
Yeah, I cheated every now and then. Saturday night I cheated. I had sushi. But sushi was great, but I felt like shit afterwards. I felt like I ate a brick. I never feel like that. It's just right. I ate a lot though. I overate. I over-ordered. And I feel really nice.
Thanksgiving, you don't do potatoes, nothing.
I did this Thanksgiving. But most other days, like today, for breakfast, I had elk sausage, eggs, and bacon. That's a normal breakfast.
Yeah. I don't know. I steer clear of. I think I just meat, vegetables, and a limited amount of fruit. Because I still like vegetables. Like, that's the problem with.
Yeah, I like vegetables. I like bok choy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like squash. We had some sweet potatoes the other night. They were great.
So but I've completely cut out everything else. Like I don't drink hardly at all. Like very, very limited. Everything is gone. Like no bread, no rice.
That's good.
Nothing.
If you can do that, you'll feel better.
Oh yeah.
It sounds nuts, but the way he described it, you know, and there's the studies that he shows, there's enough evidence to point to that at least for some people, that's a very beneficial way to eat and live. But I think really what it is this thing of eating only meat. I think for sure meat's very nutritious, but I think a big factor in that is that you're just cutting out all the crap.
Right.
And if you just eat only meat and organic vegetables, I don't think that's bad. I don't buy it. I don't buy that salads are bad for you. I think that's crazy.
And it's good.
It tastes good.
Tastes good.
I think what's bad is the shit they spray on it, for sure. Glyphosate is bad. Seed oils are bad. No one's out there saying seed oils, industrialized seed oils are good for you. They're not, but olive oil is good for you. So you could have olive oil and balsamic vinaigrette on a nice salad. I don't think that's bad. No. Some heirloom tomatoes, some onions, some olives, you know?
No, my wife did like a whole garden thing this year.
That's nice.
And so we had this giant garden with heirloom tomatoes and a bunch of stuff. It was amazing. It was awesome.
Dude, when you get an heirloom tomato right off the vine, slice that bad boy up, a little salt on it, a little balsamic vinaigrette.
Chop up some avocados.
Oh,
man. Dude, it's amazing.
Amazing. So, is there anything that's worse for the environment than avocados? It's like avocados and almonds.
Yeah, almonds. Yeah, it's like 10 gallons of water for one almond. And you just see people like shoveling them down. You're like, oh, there's where all California's water goes, right there.
Oh, but I was reading this thing recently, but I think the discovery was from 2021 about a new, very inexpensive method of desalination. Did I say it? Salination?
I know.
How do you say that? How do you say the word?
Yeah.
But anyway, removing salt from water so that you could use ocean water. But that they were going to be able to have them available in like a home-size version. Like it's like not even that big, like a suitcase size, I think it is.
Really?
Yeah, and it can literally desalinate the water that comes from the ocean, and you can turn it into drinking water.
That's like a game changer.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I've always said. Like I used to have a bit about people wanting to go to Mars, and America we have a water problem. I go, we're right next to the fucking ocean. The last thing we have in California is a water problem. We have a salt problem. There's so much fucking water. It could eat us up. It could literally devour the entire state with one giant wave, and we could be living on the beach in Arizona. Like, this fucking thing moves all the time. There's so much water. We don't have a water problem.
No.
We have a salt problem.
Yeah. I think the Israelis have actually figured that out. They have like full plants that they're out there doing.
I'm going to send this to you, Jamie, because I saved, I think I screenshotted it with the intention of looking it up later to make sure it's legitimate. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, how much stuff do you typically, when you're thinking about, how many episodes have you done now?
2,000 something.
2,000?
Yeah, and then a bunch of fight companions, and then a bunch of animations. That's more than 2,000.
When you think about all the different pieces of information that you've cataloged in your head with all these different interviews, I can't imagine the information that you've put out, too, just in terabytes as far as the volume is concerned. Now you've got interviews with Elon, from Jordan, from all these different people. That's so much information. How much do you think that you've been able to just store in your head?
Not so much. A desalination system could produce fresh water that is cheaper than tap water. MIT engineers and collaborators developed a solar-powered device that avoids salt clogging issues of other designs. This is from September 27th of 2023. So this, I don't know why I thought it was earlier than that.
Very similar titled article from a year ago.
Okay, that's probably where I saw it. So, engineers at MIT and in China are aiming to turn seawater into drinking water with a completely passive device that is inspired by the ocean and then powered by the sun. That's fucking amazing. This is where science is incredible. The configuration of the device allows water to circulate in swirling eddies in a manner similar to much larger what's that word? Thermohaline circulation of the ocean. This circulation combined with the sun's heat drives water to evaporate, leaving the salt behind. The resulting water vapor can then be condensed and collected as pure, drinkable water. In the meantime, the leftover salt continues to circulate through and out of the device rather than accumulating and clogging the system. That's amazing. And then also, couldn't you just recapture the salt and use it?
Seems like it.
Produces about 4 to 6 liters of drinking water per hour and lasts several years before requiring replacement parts. One of the things that Gary Brecko was saying that I found shocking was that some Himalayan salt, like you always think of like Himalayan salt as like super healthy, he said no, some of it has mercury. Because some of it, the way they mine it, like if they get too close to like certain areas that contain mercury, it can be contaminated with mercury. And he was recommending Celtic salt over Himalayan salt. See if you can find the article.
Interesting. So you can actually get Celtic salt.
Yeah, Celtic salt. It's I don't know. It's just order it. You gotta hope it's the truth. One thing I found out from this lady that was a beekeeper that came on here, she goes, a lot of the honey you buy is bullshit. Like, people are buying, you need to buy like it's like drugs, cutting it with baby powder.
Yeah, one of my really close friends, that's what he does. He's a beekeeper. So I've been out there like helping him with the bees.
Oh, it's saying Celtic sea salt and Himalayan sea salt can expose your children to too much lead, mercury, and other heavy metals. Wow. So Celtic salt can have it too. So none detected. So it looks like, what's the best salt? So Celtic gray sea salt. It seems like it has a lot of mercury. It's lead. It's a lot of lead. Mediterranean sea salt. So what has the least lead seems like Israeli sea salt. Of course.
I don't know who made this.
Did the Israel Times put this up?
There is mercury though. No pink salt does not contain mercury.
So it's controversial.
Minerals in it. There's a lot of minerals in it.
But who's saying it doesn't include mercury? Where does it say no? You said no, sea salt does not.
That's a pink salt.
Pink salt.
Sea salt. It's a specific salt.
No, pink salt does not contain mercury. Okay, but some can.
But
Is that people that are selling it? Okay, maybe from Nepal it doesn't contain mercury. What they were saying, I think what Gary Brecker was saying was some of it's from China that contains mercury. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I mean, when I'm buying salt, I'm not really looking into it. You know what's really fucking good? What is that? There's this veteran-owned company. Is it Firecracker?
Firecracker.
Yeah.
Dude. That
stuff's legit.
It's so
legit.
Here's something that you can do, which is you put a little bit of that in your coffee. I'm telling you, dude, it's good. It is good.
I bet it'd be good in bone broth.
Oh my gosh, man, that stuff, like hard-boiled eggs, game changer on hard-boiled eggs. I'll make. The other day I had some people over and I was like,
this
chopping
is it right here.
hard-boiled
Firecracker
eggs.
Farm.
Yeah, I love this guy.
Super legit.
Yeah.
And tastes good too.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Sauces come with all the sauce, right? And this, it sounds like a straight up commercial. It's not. I love this guy. I love this product. It's awesome.
So you know the dude who's running this company?
Yeah, we DM each other back and forth all the time.
Oh, that's cool.
And he sent me, Mike Glover, Andy, a bunch of this stuff, and most of the time I'm like,
I think I found out about it from Eddie Gallagher.
Oh yeah, Eddie loves it too.
It's legit. It's very legit. It's hot as shit. I put something when I got it. I cranked it out, put it in my hand, and licked it. I was like, "Whoa, daddy!"
My daughter had some kids over, and they were messing around in the kitchen, and they got some in their fucking eyes. Oh my gosh!
You know what's shockingly legit? This stuff: Wicked Cuts, Carolina Killer beef jerky.
Is it hot?
Oh my god, is it hot?
It's like hot sauce.
Like fucking Carolina Reaper hot.
Okay.
Like uncomfortable hot. It's like damn. Because you think like a big company like Wicked Cuts, they're not gonna fuck you up. They're gonna give you a little.
Yeah.
It's like if you get one of them. What is it? Burger King has a spicy Whopper, like a Ghost Whopper. Sure. You're not fucking anybody else. This stuff will fuck you up.
Really?
Oh, it'll fuck you up. You wanna try these?
Yeah.
It'll fuck you up. It's legit. It's good too. It's moist. I hope it's not like preservatives that make it moist like that.
Right.
You know, you always wonder. Because, like, whenever I get jerky from, like, the butcher, like, I'll have some of my elk turned into jerky. It's not the most moist.
No.
You know?
It's dry.
It's tough.
But it's good. It's delicious.
It's good for your jaw muscles.
Yeah. Like, I started using one of those stupid jaw muscle things.
I have one of those.
You do too?
Exercise.
Yeah,
I use that all the time.
Yeah,
I use it while I'm doing. I actually learned this from this guy that I follow on Instagram. Shout out to Bill Maeda. He does it while he does neck exercises. Oh, that's legit. Put one in your mouth while you're doing the iron neck. It's legit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spicy as fuck, right?
Yeah.
Like shockingly.
Shockingly hot.
Yeah. Like, yo, you're not playing.
That's legit.
Woo.
Like,
I like a hot sauce, man. Senor Lechuga. You know, half-face blades. They did a combo with Senor Lechuga.
Yeah.
And they put out this. It's like it's got dried tomatoes, sun-dried tomatoes. It's got I forget what the hot is, but it's also got truffles. It's fucking so good, and it's hot. It's got like real. Senor Lechuga is so we did three. We put together 3 different sauces that I love that are like a collection, and one of them is the half-face blades. Half-face blades, by the way, awesome company. They make fucking amazing knives. And he's actually making me a set of chef knives and a couple other knives with the antler shed from the big bull that I killed with you 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
So we got a shed from that bull, and he's making knives.
Yeah, I got some out of my moose that I cooked with Beverly a few years ago. And it was a dink. It was like a tiny little bull moose, but delicious nonetheless. And I got a bunch of chef knives from him.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was so cool. And they're, it's ceremonial, right? You pull them down off the rack, you're cutting into the steaks or the moose meat or whatever it is that you're eating. It's phenomenal.
From an animal.
Yeah.
You harvested.
Everybody loves them. They're like, these are fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's killer. Yeah, stuff like that's killer. So my point was, Senor Lechuga hot sauce. That's another one. Like, if you like it hot but tasty, Senor Lechuga will fuck you up. That stuff fucks you up, right? Dude, I ate a whole bag of it, and I was playing pool, and I had my stomach was hurting. I was like, oh boy. I was like, this is rough.
Yeah. It's no joke.
Yeah.
Like, that is no joke.
Yeah, like surprisingly for a big company to put out a beef jerky that's that spicy. Woo!
So what's next? What's going on? Like, from a context of like, what do you just opened up your club? What's the next big thing? Are you going on tour?
I don't know. I'm thinking about starting touring again. I think right now I'm just having fun, and now that hunting season's over, I can chill. I'm getting back into jiu-jitsu. I want to do that soon, and then just fucking enjoying my time.
Yeah,
that's it.
I think we were talking about this in California. Did you build this here, like as part of getting reps in, just getting rep after rep? Yeah.
Well, I built it because there wasn't a home base here.
Right.
When all these comics came out with me, when we moved out and we found out that we could perform in Austin. And for comedians, like performing is like a drug. It's like you can't perform. Like LA shut everything down for so long, and then the grapevine got out that like from November 2020 we were doing shows here totally indoors, and they were like, "What? They're doing comedy indoors in Austin? This is crazy." We packed shows. We put them up on Instagram. We were like, "Fuck, this is nuts!" And so many comics started moving here, and then I realized what we missed about LA, we missed about the Comedy Store, was that was home base, and that you need, like, comedians need a community. You need like a home club. You need where a bunch of comics hang out, you fuel each other, everybody inspires each other. When you're seeing these guys like Brian Simpson going up and murdering, he's going with new material, and Shane Gillis is going up and murdering, Tony Hinchcliffe is going up and murdering. There's like a feeling in the building. Like there's an excitement to the building. That's what I wanted to create. I wanted to create a real home for these comics, and I also wanted to create a real development platform. I think that's a key part of comedy clubs that's missing from these places that just want to make money. Because you can take your Sunday and Monday and just bring in headliners and pack the house and make a lot of money. Or you can do open mic nights and develop talent and have these people have a real opportunity to get up at the best comedy club on earth for their very first time ever and go up and do a couple of minutes of jokes and see if you can get a laugh. And you never know. You might be good. You might have it in you. You might be that fuck up in school that they always told you you're going to be a loser, but you have a funny way of saying things, and you go up and maybe you have some insight that other people maybe too scared to say, or maybe they didn't notice it, or maybe you point something out. You never fucking know. And the only way you get to develop talent is if you have some sort of a place for people to perform that aren't any good, that are just starting out. And so we set aside 2 nights for that. Every Sunday and every Monday, we have open mic. And we also have people that work there are aspiring comedians. So all the door people, they all had to audition with their act. So the town coordinator, Adam, had to go and watch them perform. And there was this giant audition for door people, for people to get jobs at the club. So there's this feeling in the club like everybody's coming up. Everybody's coming up together. When everybody's doing good, Hassan, who's just a fucking amazing dude and hilarious comedian who's at the club all the time, he said whenever something happens with the door people or anybody else in the club, everybody always says, "We up, we up." I'm like, that's amazing. That's amazing. Something cool happens, we up, and they'll yell it. Like, it's great. So that environment, like, that's what I wanted to create. That was the goal. But it's way better than I thought it could be.
Right.
It's like I had an idea. I was like, let's just do it the best we can. And turns out you got some Spotify money. You can throw in a problem. You can make it really good, and have it set up where the comedians get paid really well, and everybody gets taken care of, and you feel really good about it, and it's a fun place to work, and it's a good environment for everybody. That's what I want. So that's what we do.
It almost seems like the center of gravity from comedy is moved off the coast to Austin. And I think, and I'm probably not the first person to say that, but you're the guy that has kind of moved the epicenter of comedy over here.
Well, I gave him a spot. I created a spot. I mean, it was me because I financed it and it was my idea. But it was also, we all need a spot, and if one of us can do it and put it together, I'm a good person to do that. Because that's a lot of what I like to do. I like to help people. I like to blow people up. I really do. I love to have people on that I think are talented and let the world know about them. And when I talk about things, whether it's, on my Instagram or on the podcast, 99% of the time, I have no affiliation with those things. I just think these are good things.
Right.
People should see these good things. I don't think, oh, I should get a piece of that. Or I just think these are good things. These good things should make more money. This business should be bigger. This comedian should be more popular. This musician should be known. People should read this book. These are good things. Just put good things out as much as you can. So that was my idea with this comedy club. Just get great comics, pay them well, and have a place where people can go where they know that they're going to be able to work on their act. Everyone's phone's locked up so people aren't distracted. They're not filming things. And just having a good fucking time. Enjoying this. Let's just work together and fucking all get better together and have a real home base. And I had the ability to do it. So I said, it's kind of my obligation to do it. The universe put me in this place where all of a sudden I moved out of LA. All of a sudden I'm in Texas, and all these other comedians come out here with me. And like, who's gonna do it if I'm not doing it? I have to do it. So we just went and did it. And with a fucking grab of Ron White grabbed me by my shoulders when we got off stage. First time we got on stage, he hadn't done stand-up in like over a year, I think, close to it. And he grabs me by my shoulders, whatever the fuck we gotta do. Look, you're gonna open up that club, we're gonna do this. Like, he hadn't done stand-up in so long. And he fucking murdered. And he went on stage and it was this giant standing ovation. It was insane. I wish we filmed it because it was such a beautiful moment. It was his first time doing stand-up forever. And he was kind of genuinely, concerned about it. He listened to his material. He went over his notes. He worked on it all fucking day. And so he went up that night. He was just on it. Just on it. And so, he's a good friend, but he's also kind of a hero. Like, to me, in comedy, he's a legend. Right. So, we have Ron White here? Of course. Yeah. What do you want to do? You want to open up a club? I'll buy a club. Let's do it. And so that was this was the second place I bought, right? I told you about the first place owned by a cult. Yeah. He told me to buy that place too.
You did?
You should buy that place owned by a cult. Fucking beautiful theater. It was on BK's Road. Fucking gorgeous theater owned by a cult. Boy, then I watched the cult documentary. I'm like, oh fucking no! What is this? What happened here? There's so much bad juju going on in that building. So many bad vibes. So many people lost their lives. Literally lost their lives forever in that building.
That's fucking wild.
It's wild. Yeah. It's still a theater. I think they still do shows there. Wow. They built that theater for that dude to dance in front of his followers.
That's like a whole other. That's a whole other segue. It's like how crazy cult leaders are, and what type of personality that person is, and what happens to people. I love those mockumentaries that a few people have done around cult leaders. I think there's a series on Netflix that went into a 3-part episode.
Yeah, how to be a cult leader. I think it's called.
Yeah, it's fucking hilarious.
Well, it's just like you were talking about before. About 15% of the people have an IQ lower than 85, and some people just want to be led. There's a bunch of people. A bunch who are really lost and never develop the tools to be personally responsible for themselves. They never develop the ability to be autonomous. They never develop the ability to have their own thoughts and the objective analysis of all the information. and coming up with a rational conclusion. And they don't have people around them that could bounce these ideas off, that they respect, that they can go, what about this? And that person go, yeah, but you have to also consider this. And you're like, yeah, you do, right?
Right.
Okay. So what is really going on? Like, they don't have that in their life. And so some fucking dude comes along and he's wearing Speedos and he does yoga and he tells you he can give you the knowing and you can be in touch with God. And you just fucking, you buy into it. And it feels better than being by yourself. And you're hanging out with all these people and everyone's cooking together and you're doing yoga together. Seems good.
Seems great.
It seems like a good time. Like that Wild Wild Country.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, that was great.
Me and my friend Todd were talking about this once, and he's a real sweet guy. He's a funny guy. But he was like, in the beginning, he's like, God, I want to live like that. He goes, it all goes bad at the end, but in the beginning, we're like, God, I want to live like that. I go, I kind of want to live like that too. Everybody wants to be a part of something bigger than them, and especially if it's like a cool community where everybody's nice to each other, and you're all connected to God, and you're all like part of this movement of spreading love and hope throughout the world. Seems great at the beginning.
Yeah, it seems utopic.
Yeah.
It's like a drug.
I think people have this natural inclination to look towards a leader. So it's like looking towards an alpha chimp in a pack or the leader of a tribe. There's a natural inclination to look to someone who gets it. And if your brain's not really good, someone can come along and fucking throw Scientology in your face. You're like, I like it.
I like it.
I like it. What do I get my own planet when I die?
You can convince them.
You can fucking sell it. Especially if you're successful, like if you're running like a giant church, like clearly you must know what you're doing. Just pull up in a Rolls Royce. This guy knows what he's doing. He's a cult leader. He comes out, people are like opening the door for him. They're calling him beloved. Well, he must be legit. Maybe I found the real God.
Yeah.
That guy's attached to God energy.
How do you think about that from a leadership perspective? You know, you've had a ton of guys on, but you find yourself as a leader. You find yourself as a voice. Like, does that come natural? Is that something?
I just do my best to be like the best version of me that I can be. And if that also, if part of that is talking about the things that I've learned, then I do that. But there's no part of me that says like I need to be a leader. I think you could really fuck your head up if you start believing that. And I think that's where the cult starts. That's what the cult started. The guy was, I'm a leader. I need to teach these people. They need to follow my way. It's like, probably not. Maybe you need a leader too. Maybe everybody needs to like work together. Maybe that's a better option. Like, I think the whole leader thing is like, there might be people that you admire, or you see them as someone who is a great example of how to live life, like whether it's Jocko or many of these people that like put that out there. Like Jocko's one of the best examples of it. Like he's written books about ownership and that there's valuable lessons in that kind of stuff. But I think even with guys like him, it comes natural. It is just like this. He is just telling you what he learned. This is real. This is what you need to do. If you want to get ahead, you gotta fucking take accountability for your own life. You gotta embrace your fuck ups, embrace your failures, figure out what you did wrong, regroup, get back after it. And those are super valuable lessons. And you can call him a leader because of those lessons, but really what he's leading is an example of an excellent life.
Right.
And that is the best thing we can do for each other. We lead by example. So you can see a guy who, like, I was hanging out with this friend of mine who's this very wealthy guy who has his business. And one of the things that I was like super like inspired by is how nice he is to everyone. Everyone he meets. He's super friendly and engaging but genuine. Like I'm with him all the time, so I know if he's turning it on or turning it on. It's never on. He's like genuinely, and he doesn't have any time for negativity. He doesn't use email. He doesn't fuck with social media.
Right.
And he's just running his life with a smile on his face and genuinely engaging with people. Like that guy's a leader by example. Like that's a beautiful way to live your life. If you can do that, you can be very successful and never turn into a tyrant. That's amazing. That's amazing. Because most people, they take the easy way and they turn into a tyrant. Everybody around them is walking on eggshells and yell at people. You always hear about that with talk show hosts. You always hear about that with like people that are leading a sitcom. They just yell at everybody, shut the fuck up and listen to me. I'm the star of this show. Like, you know, that kind of shit. You always used to hear about that, especially before the internet.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the best leadership examples that I've had in my life were guys that were bad, toxic leaders. Because you're like, God, I do not want to be even close to that guy.
Yes.
And, you know, and I've had the fortunate opportunity to serve under some really incredible people and with amazing people that they just inspire you through action. And like one of those guys I've had a really close relationship over the last few years is Johnny Morris, the founder of Bass Pro. And he's that guy.
Really?
Like, he's so
Founder
humble.
of Bass Pro Shops?
He is so humble. He is so nice. He is so genuine. We went elk hunting a few years ago. He called me like, "Hey, Evan, you want to go elk hunting?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go." Like, you don't say no to Johnny, right? You're not.
Right.
No, of course I'm going to go. And one of the guys, he brought out one of the guys that plays in his bar there, Branson, Missouri. And he shot an elk. We were tracking it. Johnny's out there tracking it. I was like, "Hey guys, you guys want some water?" And he runs down and grabs everybody some water because we're putting in some miles. He's driving the truck with us and stuff. I mean, the guys, I don't know how many stores that he's opened, exactly what his individual wealth is, but he's humble, he's incredibly kind, and he's always there to offer an opportunity for somebody. We went out to one of his places in Arizona. He just sat with me for a full day just talking about brand. Like, you know, he's sitting on the couch in his slippers. We're going through brand and kind of brand moments and how important those can be and how important it is for your customer. The customer came up 1,000 times. Like, how important this is. And it's like those little pieces that I can pull away from incredible leaders, people that inspire me or whatever it is. It's not only the good people that you can find where they're authentically engaging with you, but it's also the flip side to that where you're like, this guy's incredibly successful and there's another person that's very toxic and they're not engaging people in an authentic way. I don't want to be even close to those people.
Yeah.
Like, not even close.
It's like when people have alcoholic parents that, you know, they're in and out of jail, always getting arrested, and those people wind up being super disciplined because they're like, fuck this. I'm not living my life like that. You know, I'm not where cops are banging on the door at 3 o'clock in the morning to pull your dad out of bed.
Right.
There's a lot of people that live their life by the negative example. They go, I am never going to live that. I know a lot of people who don't drink at all, not because they have a drinking problem, but because someone in their family had a drinking problem. It's one of the reasons why I've never done coke. I had a buddy of mine in high school, and his cousin used to sell coke, and I watched his life fall apart. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like, this guy was fucking so normal and cool, and all of a sudden he's like a vampire, like hiding, just doing coke all the time. Like a dude hide in this attic apartment and do coke. Him and his girlfriend, they look pale, and they're like, oh my God, you guys get bit by a vampire. It's like the cocaine vampire came along and stole your life.
The cocaine vampire.
Bro, that vampire steals people's lives. I remember it from high school because it's not like there was a lot of cokeheads in my neighborhood, but there was enough people that did coke where you watched the change in their personality, where it just all became about getting coke. They just wanted to get coke.
I can imagine it's got to be prevalent within like the media world and in LA. It's got to be.
Oh yeah,
like, it's got to be everywhere.
It's got to be everywhere in LA. I mean, I've had it offered to me a couple of times. Not a lot though. Right? Not a lot. It's not like it's something that it's not like weed. My God, how many times have people put a joint in front of me? Who fucking knows how many? But not coke is not. I think coke people know other coke people.
They're,
you know, they fucking know you got that vampire mark on you.
They're looking at you going, this guy's way too fit.
Yeah. But I know some healthy people that do coke, which is wild. I know some jiu-jitsu guys who do coke.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. There's people that just like to party. They just enjoy it enough that they disregard or ignore the performance negatives, which are very real. Like, you're fucking wrecking your system up with cocaine and you expect to perform at your best, and you're doing it all the time. Well, there's no way. Even if you're really talented, you're taking a chunk out of your potential, 100%. For sure.
Yeah, that's where, especially if you're in a combat sport.
Yes.
Definitely, you know, from my subculture and the people that I grew up with in the military, we're always concerned about brain injury, TBI. I think one of the most positive benefits that the veteran community specifically can do is stop drinking. Just stop. Once you mix drugs and alcohol on an already compromised or could be compromised brain, you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And I know that it's one of those things that I've tried very hard to just eliminate out of my life because of that. I've lost too many friends to suicide, specifically one in particular that was my best friend to just about a year ago, and I guarantee it was because of the mix of chemicals of the TBI. Guaranteed.
TBI with fighters, one of the wild things is when you think a guy's punchy and then you have a couple of drinks with them. They get drunk so fast, like obliterated so fast. Like you're pretty normal and they're gone, and you're wondering like, wow, wonder what if, like that whole brain, the whole punch drunk thing, which people always used to call it punch drunk before they call it pugilistic or dementia, but punch drunk, they are kind of drunk, and then you give them alcohol and they get really fucked up. And there's a lot of people just walking around like that. And also your endocrine system's disrupted. Your body's not producing dopamine or serotonin properly anymore because of the brain injuries. And so then you're looking for something to get you out of this fog of depression. And a lot of them turn to drinking, which is crazy because it's a depressive.
It's the same. It's very, very similar in the veteran community because guys will come out, they're redefining themselves, trying to find purpose in their lives. They get depressed because they're dislocated from their tribe, the people they've been emotionally, physically, psychologically more connected to than sometimes their family. And then they are dealing with overpressure or they've been blown up, guaranteed, because even on internal breaches and explosives on targets, you're going to be exposed to the overpressure from the explosives. You're going to have some type of impact on your brain. Like I would say guaranteed if you came out of the special operations community. And then they switch, and I've seen it, there's too many examples for me to list, but I've seen it directly impact in a negative way because they switch to alcohol, and then they find themselves in the bottom of a bottle, and it doesn't get better. Like that doesn't improve their life in any way, shape, or form. There's an interim Band-Aid for it. It might make you feel better for a short amount of time, but after a while, it puts you into a spiral. And I've seen it happen too many times to count. And it affects you. Like, I mean, it directly affects me every day. Where, whether it's the war itself or the post effects of war. I've talked about this a few times. Where it's like Iraq is with me every day of my life, whether I like it or don't like it. I've just dealt with it, and now I'm just trying to do the best that I can to make sure that, one, the machine is at 100% capacity, and two, that I can be an example for other guys to say, you know what, I don't have to be in a social circumstance to have a drink. I can reach out to a friend even if you just reach out to people now and again and just say, hey, what's up? How you doing?
Right.
Like, that's it.
It helps.
It does. It definitely helps. And I think from I think that's one of the reasons why fighters and military guys find each other a lot, and there's a huge percentage of veterans that get into jiu-jitsu and some of the things after service. They're looking for a community, they're looking for a tribe, they're looking for something physical, and I see a lot of parallels between that.
Makes sense. Yeah, I would think military guys like jiu-jitsu and martial arts would be an automatic. Makes sense. Complete makes sense to help you transition. And also just a great thing to keep your head in check, keep your mind right. Martial arts, particularly jiu-jitsu, is a really good one because there's no head impacts. And, you can keep your mind right. The problem with sparring, like if you get into striking sports, you're getting damage, believe it or not. Even if you're light sparring, you're getting popped. You're getting jabbed. Every now and then someone hits you with something a little stiff. You see stars. It happens. It always happens. I can't remember a time. You have to have like really good training partners when it comes to striking, where you really trust them that they're not going to hit you hard. And even then, sometimes accidentally they hit you hard.
Right.
Like you zig when you should have zagged. You run into something. It just happens. But with jiu-jitsu, you cut that down, way down. Like, the amount of head injuries and impacts and concussions in jiu-jitsu is tiny in comparison. Every now and then you accidentally collide heads, or you accidentally catch a knee to the head and you get knocked silly. That does happen. But for the most part, it's like the safest way to engage in combat sports. And also, it's one of the rare ones where you could do it with a buddy, and you can both go full blast. And you don't have to worry about killing each other. Because if you're going full blast in gym kickboxing, I mean, you're going to fucking break your brain 100%. And I know a lot of guys who've done it, and I used to do it. We used to go to war. We didn't spar. We beat the fuck out of each other. We hit each other full blast all the time. And it was all just about having good defense and being able to move around away from shots, but you know that real shots were coming your way, and you got dinged up a lot. And if you're doing that, like, forever, all throughout your years, like Jerry Quarry is a good example. Jerry Quarry was a boxer who fought Muhammad Ali on his return when he took those 3 years off. And Jerry Quarry was, like, notoriously tough. Just tough. Just would eat fucking punches. Well, his brother was like him too, and I think his brother only had like one professional fight. They were just always sparring in the gym. His brother wound up with brain damage just as bad as Jerry. Horrific brain damage just from the gym. The gym fucking counts, kids. If you're listening out there and you're sparring and you're fucking tuning up on your friends and you guys are beating the shit out of each other, that counts for the rest of your life, whether your coach is telling you that or not. Those sparring sessions, if you're going in there and you're getting dropped and you're getting rocked and you're rocking people and dropping people, you guys are giving each other brain damage, 100%. And I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine who was a professional fighter who is now dealing with one of his friends who's suicidal, who used to be a professional fighter. And they were talking about the sparring sessions that they had. They were talking about, Jesus, maybe we shouldn't have been beating the fuck out of each other all those years. Because they would go to war. And in the early days of MMA in particular, now they're a little bit more sophisticated about it, and they're much more aware of preserving yourself. Like, there's certain guys like Max Holloway doesn't even spar. He just fights. He says, I know how to fight. I don't want to get beat up in the gym and go into a fight compromised. He goes, I want to go into a fight 100%. So I don't even spar. He just does drills. And, you know, he's one of the best alive. But then there's guys like Sean Strickland that spar constantly. Did you see his house got broken into?
Yeah.
Pull that video up. What a wrong house to break into.
Out of all the houses.
Out of all the houses to fuck with. That guy. UFC middleweight champion who is a gun nut.
Yeah.
And really knows how to use guns.
Yeah, out of all the guys.
Yeah, he trains. I mean, you see every photo that he has, he does YouTube videos, there's fucking ARs on the wall behind him. Like, he's not fucking around, kids. He's ready.
He's hilarious. That guy is.
He's hilarious.
He is hilarious.
He's very funny.
He's like.
He's so marketable as like an anti-hero, but also a hero.
Yeah.
You know, he's a guy. Like, so here, like, go to the volume. Give me some volume. So this is drunk guy, and he's outside Sean's apartment. Sean sees him. It's music playing. So he throws the guy down on the ground, points a gun at him, and he's standing on him. I don't know what the guy was doing. It seems like the guy was just obliterated drunk, and he thought the guy was trying to rob him, but I think the guy was just shit-faced and he was looking for his keys or something. What was he doing? It says he was arrested. Oh, he hit a curb. Okay, so he was driving drunk. He stomped out a girl. Oh my God. Oh, a security guard saw him stomp out a girl. He jumped into his car and drove off. Security followed him. He hit a curb, completely shredded his tire, drove on the rim for a while, then jumped down and tried to hide at Sean Strickland's house. Yeah, whoops. Wrong dude. That's karma. That's the universe sending you to the wrong spot.
The gravitational pull to Sean's house.
He was such a cunt.
Strong.
He was such a cunt that the universe guided him to the absolute worst place you could ever be while he just did those things. Yeah. Stomped out a girl, drove drunk, smashed his car into a curb, ditched it, tried to hide at the absolute wrong spot.
Like, that guy's social media, like, has got to be some of the most entertaining social media.
Oh, he's hilarious.
Yeah.
And he's a champion. So it's like he's behaving like a wild young contender. but he's the #1 guy on Earth. I mean, look, it's hard to say. Look, people can say what they want about that Adesanya fight. Oh, Izzy wasn't himself. Dude, he wasn't himself because he got clipped with a bomb of a right hand by Strickland in that first round. Strickland connected with a picture-perfect right hand, rocked Izzy, and then hit him with, how many shots did he hit him with afterwards? 8, 10 clean